cover. It sits on carpeting. I had to the floor in the shop, parked the car.
Oh, did you? I thought you had to remodel the office and put it
Well, I'm
in.
building a museum down there.
Oh, God.
I got Ernie coming to put the walls up in the big room.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We're gonna pour them?
Well, what we do is we pour a 3
Yeah,
foot.
three,
So if you bump it, you don't go through the sheet rock, and then from there we go up with the sheet rock,
there you go.
you know?
Okay, I'll call this meeting to order for Tuesday, May 2nd, 2017. Start with the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Okay.
Just real to me.
No deal?
No deal.
Since she was coming, she also said she wasn't feeling well, so I don't know if the plan has changed.
Okay,
You want to sign it, or let me pass it down?
No,
Jason's
she's
got a sign.
She's homesick.
thanks. Agenda approval. Any added agenda items?
Make a motion to approve the agenda as published.
I'll take a second.
Second it?
All those in favor?
Aye.
Um, I'll entertain a motion to approve the meeting minutes of April 18th.
I'll make a motion to approve the regular selectmen's minutes for April 18th, 2017.
Second,
Second?
discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Make a motion to approve the April 20th, 2017 special meeting minutes.
Okay, second,
Second it?
discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Right along.
Okay, here we are.
Well, this is gonna keep going, we'll be doing great.
And let me, at 8:30, we're going to take a recess and meet with the Board of Education, the Board of Finance, and ourselves. So we're going to have a big board meeting.
Just get done. Well, keep going, you're moving good.
Just,
Be
all right,
done.
wait, all right. Now,
Done.
communications. Is there any communications? Okay, hearing none. Public participation.
Moving right along.
Paul.
Real quick, happy birthday to Henry Martin Robert, author of Robert's Rules of Orders, 1837. That's my comment.
It's quick for you.
But it's had several additions.
Marie's
It's had
got her
10.
hand
Marie.
Yeah, Marie D'Souza, 10 Rice Road. I just want to thank the Board of Selectmen for all the efforts that they put into the casino meeting the other night. It was way more people there than what I think any of us had anticipated, but we were able to pull it off, and I think the meeting for the most part went quite well, so thank you for your efforts.
Thank you, and thank the registrars and the moderator, too. More public participation. Okay, hearing none. Last chance. Okay, board commissions and resignations and appointments.
I'll make a motion to accept the resignation of Lori Titus from the Veterans Commission with our thanks.
Second,
Second.
all those discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Oh, well, I should have discussed, I should have.
Right.
Is this Lori Titus? Is that from the Tituses in town?
I know she worked at the Parks and Rec.
Yeah.
She's the wife of the Titus of town. Her nephew was the one that was killed in Afghanistan in 19.
You know the
Yeah.
Tituses that lived up on Phelps Road there?
I did not.
Same Titus?
Some of the group, I think, yeah.
Some of the same family?
Yeah, I think so. I'm getting a yes.
Yeah, just curious.
Originally from Route 5.
Yep,
Kathy
yep, there you
Titus,
go.
they lived in the farmhouse on Route 5, they had the horses. That's, Lori is her sister-in-law. Kathy was the one that lost her son.
Yeah.
Just curious.
You know how it is in this town. If they
Andy
went here when the
Titus's mom.
Indians discovered the place,
The
you're
young
not a
Marie,
native.
Andy Titus's mom used to be in the Young
I
Marine.
know Andy
Unit.
Titus.
I know Andy.
Joey Rabbit,
Yeah, I know Andy. Yeah.
Hope so.
Andy's the husband.
Okay. I'd entertain a motion.
Okay. I will make a motion to reappoint, oh, it's a new appointment.
New appointment.
Oh, my gosh. New appointment of Barbara Sherman as a regular member of the American Heritage River Commission for a term expiring 11/1/2020. But you remember, Barbara.
Second?
I was a member. Somehow, when my term expired 2015, I was reappointed as an alternate, which we only just discovered, and so we're no longer an alternate. Now I'm a new member.
There's an orientation, you know.
That's if we vote for you.
Further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
She's always there.
Oh, good.
Okay. Unfinished business, the 250th anniversary commission report.
6 minutes, that was real quick.
Done by 7:30.
All right, so I don't think we had a meeting since the last meeting here. I will be updating the website with our most up-to-date, solid booked events for 2018 with a description on the website, hopefully this weekend. We hopefully will have t-shirts in on Thursday. Seal hasn't heard back from C&J's yet if they're ready, but I'm hoping this weekend we'll get those. And we just had a small little section of the Geisters flyer. They put a 250 whip about us in there. And they're gonna put those in as often as they can when they have room. And then as the time gets closer to 2018, we can change it up, say, here's an event coming up, and do all those things. So we're working with Geisters to work on that. What else? Our meeting is on Thursday at 7 at the Osborne House. The patio is coming along. It is not completely finished yet, but it looks awesome. So, I think that's the only update I actually have.
Any support so far from members of the chamber? Local businesses?
No, we haven't started our full fundraising process yet, so hopefully that will use the chamber and those resources once we actually go out and have people. So.
We might be using signs at some point, I don't know if we...
Yeah, we're working on getting signs made up. We have big, I forgot what size they are, but they're big wooden signs that we're gonna try to put next to the Welcome to East Windsor Town signs that say 250th anniversary or birthday or something. They're gonna be big wooden carved signs and they're gonna be painted. And we also are going to be getting yard signs at some point, but that's down the road. We need to get some money for it because we need money to get stuff. So.
Takes money to make money.
Exactly.
You might be able to sell the signs though for
Yeah.
$100 or something.
Yeah.
Could have people sponsor.
Yeah.
Yeah, so we're working on that, but we want to get more money before we start spending it all first.
Yeah.
We're also working on planning our events. I have a meeting with Ashley at Lenote next week to go over the finalizing stuff of Masquerade Ball. So that is moving forward. So
All right.
once we have information on that, we'll start getting the word out so people can buy tickets and whatnot, so.
Okay, thank
Anything
you.
else? Thank you.
She put her on the chair.
Somebody else took my other chair.
I thought that was very amusing. I have an abundance of chairs.
I'll just sit next to you next time.
We'll let you have one.
Might as well.
Trouble with the high
Second
back
reading
chairs
over.
is nobody can see.
What?
The high back chairs, they
Oh,
block
yeah, I
everybody's
know.
vision.
All right, the Rockbrook Mill, we met Lori and Rich Aguiloff, or Keith Aguiloff, and Jen and I met and we discussed the grant, and they're working on the grant, so that should be done within a week or so. And we're going to apply for brownfields remediation, and which would include maybe some restoration of the old building that's there. So we're working on a grant. Any questions?
What's the story with Deep?
I'll have it for you next meeting.
So I did a little research,
Okay.
and this item has been on our agenda for 24 meetings in a row, with that being the answer. So I just wonder how many dozen times we're going to meet before we're actually going to get some feedback from DEP.
Feedback, okay.
What's it gonna take to get them to come in here? Because it's been literally 24 regular meetings
Well-
in a row.
This is my plan. We get this grant pretty well put together, so we know, and then we'll go down and we'll talk to Maurice Hamill and show the plan to him, and then I'll come back here and maybe we'll have Lori or Keith Agioff come and speak about what was said. And then that's as far as my plan goes.
So this brownfield grant is a DECD grant, right? The Office of Brownfield Remediation is in DECD. I'm guessing it's them. It's either them or OPM.
Okay. And what I'm looking at is something from this CCM, so, it's the Department of, Connecticut Department of Economic and Community Development, DECD.
Yes.
Okay.
So there is a role for DEEP in remediation, and there's a role for DECD in remediation, and they're not the same thing.
Mm-hmm.
So one is going to be very dependent on the other. So it still would be a very good thing for Maurice Hamill or somebody who works for him somewhere in the food chain to come here. So we can,
Well, let
people who've
me-
been asking for, it's years now.
Well, I'm gonna go talk to him very shortly, probably within the next 2 weeks.
All right, that'll be the 25th meeting.
It might even go to 26, I don't know.
56 would probably be more like it.
Okay, discussion of the casino. Well, everybody, and Marie brought up and talked about what we did, and it was quite a successful meeting on Thursday evening. Learned a lot from it. But one thing I learned is the elementary school gymnasium is pretty big and can hold a lot of people. That's a good thing. I think if we had to do it all over again, I would try to improve the way people were identified on the registers list. Maybe have more than one list, more than one checker, maybe lines alphabetically. And also, handicapped people should have been allowed to come up first and made special arrangements for them. So those are some of the things I took away from that. Maybe we'll never have to do it again, I don't know. We'll see. Any further discussion? Steve?
Go ahead, Dick.
I just found one thing awful strange with that meeting. We had 3 attorneys, one gave a lengthy legal opinion, and 2 more attorneys that are just concerned citizens, all said the same thing, that this ordinance was illegal, and yet they got 100 and some votes. They should have got no votes. That should never have been voted. Because that would just leave the town open for litigation beyond belief. Yeah, I found it quite shocking, and I'd like to see it on the public record.
Okay, Steve?
Well, they got their vote. It wasn't a referendum, but they got their vote. People said, well, we should have had a referendum. And the people could have shown up to vote at this hearing. You wouldn't have got any more people at a referendum. Okay, they got beat by a margin of 2-1, all right? That sends a message to the boys down in Hartford, I hope they're listening, that we want this thing in our town. And we did hold a vote. And I think some of them down there were disappointed that we weren't gonna have a referendum, but we did have a vote. And and they lost. The people who wanted it showed up, voted, was it like 300 votes, pretty close? 2-1 margin, we won, showing that the townspeople want this casino in our town. And it shows the reservations that we're still on track with them, that we're gonna honor that agreement we signed with them. That this thing is gonna move forward. Now it's up to the guys down in Hartford. They've gotta get off their you-know-whats and make a decision here. There's only one decision they can make, really. That's come to East Windsor, or the second decision, excuse me, would be no more casinos in Connecticut at all. because they certainly can't put it out to bid. They know that. And that's what's screwing them up in the head. They put it out to bid, they lose every dime down at those reservations. And they're not gonna do that. They're not gonna do that. So they've only got two things, East Windsor or no casinos, only the two we have, and that is it, and that's my opinion.
Okay. And I think you made me think a little more, and some people had to wait in line for an hour to vote.
Some people went home, Bob,
Yeah,
A lot of them went home.
my wife went home.
but they couldn't stand
Some
up.
handicapped people, older
Yeah.
people.
They couldn't stand up, so they
couldn't
had to
stand
leave.
that
Yeah.
long.
Yeah.
We dropped the ball a little on that.
But the people who did stand in line, it shows their support. What strong support that is to spend that much time there and that much effort to voice their opinion. And 300 votes are pretty significant, so that's good. Any further discussion on the casino?
Something like that, should it happen again, really should be at the high school.
I totally agree.
We talked about like dropping the ball, going from the town hall to the cafeteria to the gym was not helpful.
I agree.
Well, there isn't enough seating, even if you lugged all the chairs from over here, went over there, plus everything they had, and there still was just no seating.
Okay, so it was a lesson, we learned from it, next time we'll do better.
There was nothing at the high school on Thursday night.
That's not true. In fact, I called the high school, and I could have changed the location, but there were a number of events at the high school, none in the auditorium, but the parking lot would have been full. One thing, there were 2 soccer games that evening, and a few other things that I forgot. But that's the reason I didn't get the high school, was the parking lot, not the auditorium.
That didn't work. That would work fine if we knew in advance and could have the chairs set up and the bleachers out and everything ready to go. It wasn't that bad, other than some more chairs would have been nice, but, I mean, I'm sure a rental company could supply us with all the chairs we needed pretty reasonably.
We had an advance notice, we could get chairs. I
I
think
got
there's chairs in
1,000
the
extra
annex.
chairs. I said, I got 1,000 extra chairs.
Well, there you go.
They actually came from here.
You rent them back to us for a fee, Steve?
Well, what happened is they didn't want them anymore. They told, what's his name, a guy to come and get them and scrap them, because they were the metal ones, the old metal fold-outs.
Oh, yeah.
So he says, Steve, do you want them? I said, yeah, bring them down. I'll use them in my community room down here.
Okay,
Write that down, Bob. Next
Right.
time we need them,
I
we'll
got
call
a
Steve.
shitload of chairs, man. You
We'll
need
call his
chairs.
wife, she'll
Rich-
let us take them.
I'm going to, Keith, we went over the Broadwood Mill site. Do you want to add anything?
Well, Lori Whitten contacted me, she's been in contact with me. She sent me her draft of what she has. I prepared, finished off today my first piece to go in with it. And then I think she's going to be out on the 9th. So the plan is to try to consolidate it and get it out to UT Aerospace for their review. So it looks like it's moving along. I mean, the points are what they are, and we won't know how they, if it gets submitted, we won't know how to grade all the points. But Lori did a good job, and I did my part, so we'll just try to get it all together into a package.
Okay, thanks. All right, moving on to new business. 11, agenda item 11A, East Windsor Housing Authority discussion of pilot program. And what I have done, and I'll pass it out, is I prepared a document very similar to last year's to extend the 7% pilot payment for another year under the same circumstances or conditions that if we don't agree in a year, it could, yeah, it could go up to 10%. And the reason I extended it for a year is that this year I had planned to really understand the financials of the housing authority. I think it's good to review those every year, but without our treasurer, I really don't have a good picture of anything. I think it makes sense for us to review the financials in detail every year, because many years ago, none of the people on the current board, but it did get into trouble, and so we don't want that to happen again, because there are residents too, so.
Is this the same letter that was used last year?
Pretty much,
What's different?
the dates.
That's it?
Well,
Why change it?
How about the reversion clause?
it's the same. What I did change, like I said, it said, would you like me to read it? I said, it says, the old one said, you are aware of the Housing Authority was paying a 10% pilot program payment each year since at least 1991 through, and it said 2013, and that's the same. While the 10% payment was made for some time because the Housing Authority was undergoing severe financial strain and economic difficulties, the town agreed to reduce the pilot to a payment of 7% through June 30th, 2017. Last year it said 2016, so just the dates were primarily changed.
Go on. It's the next sentence that I'm actually curious
Okay.
about.
The pilot agreement for the period of July 1st, 2017 through June 30, 2018 will be as follows. The pilot program payment rate commencing July 1st, 2017 through June 30, 2018 will be 7%. To extend the 7% pilot rate after June 30th, 2018, additional financial information must be provided, including bank statements from all Housing Authority bank accounts, and possibly additional financial controls might be required. That additional financial controls I put in might be required. To the extent that the town and the East Windsor Housing Authority do not agree to a new pilot program rate as of July 1st, 2018, then the rate will revert to 10%. If the Housing Authority agrees to this pilot program from July 1st, 2017 through June 30th, 2018, please indicate the authority's agreement by signing on the authority's behalf below. And John Burnham would sign it.
So is that this new one that you were just reading, or is that the last year's with you amending the dates?
That's last year's with me amending the dates.
Do you have a copy of last year's with you?
I do.
Could I take a look at that, please? I'm curious about the reversion. Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
No, I'm good.
Oh, you're all welcome.
I move to authorize the first selectman to sign the agreement between the town of East Windsor and the East Windsor Housing Authority dated May 2nd, 2017.
Is there a second?
For discussion.
Okay.
Has anybody looked at any financial statements this year to come up with this?
No.
I think you should.
So, do we want to invite Linda up? Because I think she has some information that might be helpful. But it was in our packet.
Sure.
It was?
Yeah.
Who's back?
You want to just talk a little bit about the added obligation being put on you by CHFA?
Yes, absolutely. We have been required over the years to have a reserve of $84,000, maintain a reserve of $84,000, which is equal to $1,000 per unit, which we have 84 units. Now, going forward this year, we had to budget an additional $400,000. And this, for the purpose of this, is to maintain a sufficient amount of reserves in case we have to spend down the 84, and then we will have the additional 29,400. So that was unexpected, so that now has to be budgeted for this upcoming budget.
Yeah, so
So that's a
you have more expenses than last year.
correct.
And so you also said, if I read this right, that the maybe, oh, it isn't here. The average one-bedroom is, rents at $449 a month, so if you need to have $1,000 per unit, essentially what you have to operate on in order to meet that objective is you get 10 months rent of your $449. In order to meet, because you got to park $1,000 from every unit, so that's essentially losing 2 months rent.
Correct.
So we're asking you, that's why there's a benefit to maintaining the 7% rate versus the 10% rate, is because you guys are already operating 2 months down.
Right, and we're trying to keep the rents affordable, and efficiency right now is $429, which is the base rent, though we do calculate 31% of a person's income and take the higher. So efficiency, or also known as a studio, is $429, and a one-bedroom is $449. And that is for new people moving in as of last year. Now, we do have folks that are paying substantially less than that. So they are grandfathered into any previous base rents. So anything that you can do to help us keep afloat and stay in line, we would really appreciate it.
And let us know, and I'm sure you will, if we could do anything to help.
Okay, thank you.
So your budget every year is, I just did some quick math here, assuming the highball estimate is about $450,000?
It's less than that,
Yeah.
just based on the rents. The only additional income that we have is we have McRae as our laundry vendor, so we get some money from the washers and dryers, and a little bit of interest from our savings account, which doesn't have up to a whole lot. So it's just a little bit over $300,000.
So you operate on $300,000 and you need to park $84,000?
Well, out of that, and plus we do have, fortunately, we still have the mill pond money that we are struggling very hard not to use, because someday that's going to go away.
Right.
So we can tap into the mill pond money to have under the East Windsor Housing Authority umbrella, as opposed to Park Hill's operating budget. And we can draw upon that money as the reserves.
Well, it sounds to me like I don't want to be putting any additional burden on you this year.
Thank you. I appreciate that.
Okay, further discussion.
I have one major objection. This was on our agenda. This was just laid on me tonight. No chance to study it, read it, and ask questions. And there was no financials submitted. Not that she's lying, I'm sure she isn't. So therefore, I won't support it.
Okay.
There's no reason this couldn't have been in our packets.
It was in our packets.
I didn't get it.
It's the letter from Linda Collins dated the 25th, received the 27th, it's listed as 11A.
I got 11D. I don't have it. It's here, wait a minute, let me keep going.
It's right there. It's the last page in your section. You can see the backside of the page.
Okay, I got it. Let's start on financials.
I do have financial reports through the end of March.
I'm not gonna sit here and study it here.
Okay.
Explain to it differently. It's-
So I do have
I'm not gonna
my-
study it here, I don't have my glasses with me.
Oh, okay.
I like to do these at home at my leisure, where I've got my adding machines and everything else I want. It's just, and you do have time.
So,
But
would there be?
I'm sure you'll get it voted in anyway.
Would there be any hardship placed on the housing authority if we were to wait on this for 2 weeks?
No, because it's effective July 1st. So
Okay.
that would be fine.
So that still gives you sufficient time based on whatever the decision is to make whatever preparations you need?
Yes.
Then I would move to postpone the.
You got a motion on the floor and second.
Postpone supersedes, does it not? Nobody's going to call me on that. I'm going to say it does.
Good try. You can withdraw your motion.
I don't think I have to do that, but I will. I withdraw my motion.
Okay, I'll withdraw the second.
I move to postpone this agenda item for the East Windsor Housing Authority discussion until the May 16th meeting.
I'll second that. With some information, I hope, like numbers on the paper. to back
She's
it
got
up.
them here.
Okay, well, copy them up and get them to us.
I think she brought copies.
Okay, I'll write it. I'm
As
I'm
of the end
sorry.
of March.
You know, we always had this stuff before.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
Thank you.
Marie?
So,
Just for, Linda, if you don't mind, just for added information, we've also done some things up at Park Hill to help ourselves out. We had a maintenance staff person retired, and instead of bringing that position in as a full-time position, we brought in someone part-time to try to save some revenue that way. We have taken a hard look at what we're doing up there and how we're doing it, and we've gone out and subcontracted some of the functions that maintenance used to do at a lower rate, so we're saving there. But it's important when you look at the pilot money at the 7%, and you look at the fact over the last year, we have taken the rents and raised them. That kind of offsets a little bit more money to the town than the previous year because our intake is a little bit higher. We're doing a lot of renovations up there, we're putting money aside. And if you look at the financials that she gave you, and if you look at the minutes to our meeting, everything we do now, if we put money aside, there's a paragraph on the bottom, so that if somebody gets off the board, the next person knows how much money is allocated for pilot money, how much money is added for renovations that we've approved, et cetera, so that everything is open. It wasn't always like that. The current board, John Burnham as chairperson, myself, Laverne, Alex, and Betsy Laborious, we've really put a lot of effort into our finances. We've met with financial auditors. This year we finally got off of the state list of concerns. We're no longer on that. And we're looking to move forward. There's a lot of things that we still need to do up at Park Hill to bring it up to this century. There's things we want to do with that 7 acres. So this 7% will keep us moving that direction. If we revert back to the 10% this year, then the changes that we have taken upon ourselves would be for naught, because we'll get you the money because we have to, but then we'll probably wind up back on the watch list again. We don't want to do that. We want to move forward, and I think we have done that. When we first took over 2.5 years ago, there was a lot of stuff up there. We had no money. John Burnham and I went to the bank and took out a $25,000 loan because we didn't think we were going to be able to pay our staff. Well, today we have roughly about $189,000 in our savings. We're doing well with the new director up there. We can only do better, so keep that in mind when you take a look at the financials. I suggest you go back and see where we were and where we are now. We're not looking to cheat the town out of any money. We're just trying to keep that place solvent and solvent on their own without relying on the Mill Pond money, because we don't know at any given time. We had a scare a few years back where Mill Pond was going to be bought out, and we were concerned that that contract wouldn't be held. Wake up call, because we want to be self-sufficient up there. So if you keep that under consideration, I'd appreciate it. Thanks.
Okay. Thank you. So it was moved and seconded to postpone until May 16th. Any further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Okay, now the WPCA pump station. Town hall.
Good evening, Steve. Good evening, Dick. Good evening, Bob. There you go. Paul?
Okay, thank you. Thank you for having us here this evening. As you may or may not know, I'm Art Indley. I'm the superintendent of water pollution control. Ed Albozic is our chief operator. And Paul Anderson, as I'm sure you all know, is our chairman of the WPCA. The reason we're before you tonight is in regards to the Scout Hall pump station. I've put together with Ed's assistance a one-page synopsis here. But to back up a little bit, I've been here since 2010, 7 years basically. Scout Hall Pump Station has existed since about the year 2000. I did some research in trying to understand the ownership of the Scout Hall Pump Station. It's always been a bit of a mystery. Okay. So what I arrived at is that it is my understanding, I don't know this to be true, but it's my understanding, that the town of East Windsor is the lesser of the Scout Hall, and the Scout Hall Building Committee is the lessee. Okay. Now, the pump station has been there since the year 2000. The WPCA, since I've been there in 2010, we have always maintained it, and my belief is it's always been maintained prior to that. I don't know if that was the original intent, but that is how it always has been. Now, it is brought to your attention now that that existing pump station has had a failure of one of the pumps, and the second pump is on its last legs. So we went out and got some pricing because I felt it was best that as people who maintain pump stations, we were the best suited to try to address this. So what we put together is a quote for WPCF staff, myself and Ed and the folks that work for us, to do all the labor. We are going to put 2 brand new pumps and rail system in there. We're going to redo all the electrical. A few years ago, through a grant that Ed obtained for us, we actually put what we call SCADA control for that pump station, which is remote monitoring and alarms, because Scout Hall gets used quite often. And we needed to understand if and when there was a problem with that station, because if the pumps go down, it's a serious problem. You have sewage overflowing the road. Nobody wants any of that to happen. So, make a long story short, my total estimated cost for what Scout Hall needs is around $25,141. That breakdown includes a quote from Carlson Systems, which is in your packet, for new pumps and rails. We work with 4 different pump manufacturers, and you can't just put any pump in there. We want something that is going to last longer than the original ones lasted, which is 17 years, which is nothing wrong with that. That's the electrical work, because we have to run all new wiring, new disconnects, new panels. Environmental Instrument Services is our SCADA integrator. They are the ones who do our programming and our SCADA integration. We have to pump down the wet well completely while we go in there to work. It's about 2 days worth of work. We have to bypass the flow and keep everything dry while we actually get down in there and perform the work. And then the estimated cost of a spare pump, relays, and floats, so that if something does go wrong, we are ready to put a spare pump in there, is around $6,000. Now, as I put down here at the bottom, our understanding of the lease agreement, I was able to go into the town clerk's office the other day, and I was able to find the lease agreement for the Scout Hall. And that's why I say that it does say in there that the town of East Windsor is responsible for all capital repairs. I'm not sure what is defined as a capital repair for the town of East Windsor. I have my opinion what a capital repair is, but I would assume, and again, that $25,000 probably is a capital repair. I know we... It's easy. In the lease, anything over 10,000 is a capital repair.
Where does it say 10,000?
I didn't...
It's the lease of Scout Hall.
Yeah.
I don't have that copy.
Jason does.
But I'm sure. I counted on it.
I didn't see a number in there, Jason.
I didn't see a number either.
I read it a couple of times, but again, that's...
I didn't see a number either, and
You know what?
the town's policy is 20,000 as a capital
You
project.
know what might have happened? When that lease was signed, I think it was 10. And it
Well, the policy
subsequently was
was 10,
changed,
yeah.
the policy was changed. to 20?
I believe that the lease was
I
in the
could have sworn there
90s.
was a number.
The lease is about 22 years old. So to move forward here, we had a WPCA meeting last week, and I brought my commission up to speed on that. And my position as the superintendent is, I can't expect my commission, because right now, we do not own that pump station. We have maintained it over the years. Prior to my coming here, we have maintained it. I think it's good that we do maintain it. But what I would like to do is I would like the WPCA to take over the responsibility for that station. Because it only makes sense. We're the guys that do that kind of work each and every day. We know how to maintain it, we know how to operate it, we know how to plan for long term. Before I could suggest to my WPCA that they take it over, it would have to be brought up to standard, which is what the $25,000 I think will get it up to where it would be in line with our other stations. So it would be an asset, not a liability.
And how do you derive income off of these pump stations?
We do not.
You don't?
They are a money pit.
No kidding.
Really they are.
It's part of the infrastructure overall.
And again,
It's because they didn't do it right this
And it's
time.
just Scout Hall that ties into this?
no,
No.
it's not just Scout Hall. Scout Hall, it is a house next door to Scout Hall, and then it is the Windsor Show Stables, which is a horse barn down the street from there. So there's 2 apartments in the horse barn, so that's 3 units there. We take in at, what do we figure, it's around $1,500. Now we take in $1,500 a year in revenue from the sewer use fees. Our outlay of what we spend for wet bowl cleanings and maintenance, and we check those stations twice a week, far exceeds that cost. But the way I see it, it's a cost of doing business. Now, when I read through the original agreement, again, this is my reading of it, it did say that the Scout Hall was supposed to be the only one connected to that. Now, things change over the years, and I just came across this agreement, I think it was Monday. No, it was Monday, yeah, thank you, okay. So, what we have right now is we have private homes going, we have public homes going into a private system back into a public sewer, which constitutes a community sewer system, which is not allowed by law. We kind of had the same thing with the Farms Road, Acorn Drive, I don't know if you remember that issue. So again, it took us a few years to get that rectified, and then we took that over into our system. And again, I think we did a favor for the folks who live out there in that community. And again, much like the folks that live over on Abbey Road, they're all taxpayers. So my thought was that I can't in good conscience, and I told the commission last week, that there's 2 ways we can go with this. And to be honest with you, we could just say that the town owns it, the town should maintain it, but that's really a foolish way to go, because the town's really not set up to maintain a pump station. We're the experts in pump stations, so we really should take it over. But at the same time, most other pump stations that we do recently, they have what's called the developer's agreement that comes along with it. So there is a set amount of money and spare parts up front. We didn't get that with the Scout Hall pump station. So all we're looking to do right now is just to get it back into good operating condition, so that we can say for the next 15 years, we expect that it will run again before it needs any more repair. But then it will be upon the WPCA to pay for those repairs at that point in time.
Now, also, when that was designed, it was designed to handle all the way up to the church on Abbey Road, because that's as far as you could reach with gravity, feeding the pump station, so it was made big enough to handle those properties if they so chose to connect.
Yeah, it's my understanding, we've talked to some of those people, that their septic systems are still functional.
Right.
So they're just not, if their leach field failed, then they could tie in.
And are they're not tied in currently?
No, they are not tied in, no.
So there are 3 properties that are tied in?
That is correct, it's 3 properties.
The line itself would have to be extended for any more
Oh, yeah.
properties to get that.
Pay further east, yeah.
But it could be.
And you said that you guys have 4 different companies that you deal with?
Well, we have 4 different pump companies that we deal with. We elected to go with Carlson Systems. We've been doing like 2 pump stations a year. We recently did another pump station on Route 140, which we have these pumps in. We're very happy with them. We like the way they work. They're very trouble-free. We have different pumps for different applications. For the Scout Hall, the Carlson Systems is the pump of choice that we think is best pump suited for that.
But did you go out to bid?
No, we did not go out to bid. We did, when you say go out to bid, we did solicit prices. And I guess, Ed, what would you say there? Well, let's see, well, between Homa, between
We have Homa, we have KSB.
KSB,
And we have,
ABS.
Moino, which, those are German pumps, and they're very, very good, but they're typically larger pumps. This is a small chamber, so our choices were going to be ABS, Myers, which were in there. And
Which are in there
We
currently.
wanted to
Upgrade it a little bit.
upgrade that, and then Zollner, which are throwaways, which gives you 3 or 4 years.
That long?
Yeah.
So,
How did the prices compare?
the pump, like everything else now, I think the economy of pumps, it's very competitive. I don't know if the pump manufacturers are making what they used to make. They probably make 40 or 50% of the sale. Now it's pretty
It's
cut.
a lot closer margin. The difference here, Jason, being is that what we're basically doing is we're going to purchase these pumps, and then with the assistance of the manufacturer, we're going to actually do the install. Our folks are actually going to do the install. We work alongside every other person that's on here are folks that, I call them contractors of record. I've been here 7 years. How many pump stations have we done? 6 pump stations, 7 probably? Well, almost,
1, 2, 3, 4,
pretty
5,
close to
6.
that, yeah. 6 pump
How many do
stations.
we have?
We have 10.
Way too
With the
many.
Scout Hall.
Way too many.
Yeah. We have 9, Scout Hall actually gives us 10 pump stations. So. We have rehabilitated 7 of those, and these are the folks that we have continually worked with, because I give you an example, as with an electrical contractor, a lot of guys can come and wire you in the light, put some lights in for you. Some guys could probably wire a pump, but we work with special controls and starters and relays, so we need electricians who understand how pumps work. It's a little bit more specialized work, and so we have a contractor we've worked with for probably 5 years now, done all our pump stations.
The nice thing about it is, I think, over the time, after the first install,
Yeah,
working with the same people actually saves us time and money.
we get the same electrician
It's
back.
the same
from
process
company
each
at the
time.
So he gets to know work, and again, what they do is, we're a little bit different, Jason, because we work alongside with them. None of us are electricians. We do a lot of electrical work until we get to the point that we need the licensed electrician. And they're very comfortable working with my people, where some electrical contractors are like, no, we want the job, we want everything. You just, and again, this price would probably double to triple. So that's how we can afford to do the pump stations within our own CIP, because we get very involved. We do a lot of the work alongside these folks.
So again, what were the quotes from some of the other companies?
They were all higher. This actually from ABS was the lowest quote, but it was the best pump for the job.
So the proposal, or what you guys are seeking then, is to have the town pay for the replacement of the pump, which services town property and private property, and then we would turn it over to you.
Yeah, at that point in time, my suggestion to my sewer commission, and I guess I'll let Paul speak to that, but I think they were understanding that they thought it would be a good idea for that to be taken into the WPCA. What it does, Jason, for the town, it relinquishes that responsibility, the financial responsibility for the pump station. We don't really get any benefit from taking over the pump station. It just seems to make the most sense.
So why wouldn't we split the cost?
Because we don't own the pump station.
And we do?
Yeah, you do, yeah.
But there are hookups to it that are not supposed to be there.
If I could interject, I talked to Paul about this, and maybe you could talk about a benefit assessment.
Before we do that, let me
Okay.
explain something. This is basically a cost of the contractors we would have to use and materials.
Any
But the-
labor?
But the majority of labor is gonna be ours, so there's no money involved. There's no charge to anybody for that.
So the town's not gonna get a bill for labor?
No.
What you see
We're
here
actually
is
providing
basically
labor.
the cost we're talking about, nothing additional. That's important to understand up front before we go any further.
That's for the pump installs, we've installed pumps. The biggest savings, that's a decent savings, but things like the electrical, and especially all the controls.
You
So
don't save money on those.
we'll go in first, and we get everything done. We pull all the wires, we just don't do the connections. So we're probably saving 30 to 40% of getting a different SCADA company in who's gonna do these controls and monitoring. Because we've had a relationship with EIS for about 14 years.
Yeah.
The man who owns the company, it's 3 people, him, a partner, and son. They're not interested in doing all the bull work. They want to come in and perform their magic and leave it to us so it works and we can see it on our screen 6 miles away. So when we do all that setup work, it probably saves 40%. And we know this because when we had the FEMA grant, we did 3 stations and they were
Right.
amazed at the prices we were getting. It almost looked like we were trying to make it up.
Yeah.
But it's just because we've done the physical parts, which are good savings.
I bet what you guys do is actually pretty cool to figure out.
You should come down and get it.
I've taken a tour a
Yeah,
couple
but
times.
it's more now.
Remember, it all flows
It's gravity
downhill.
And the key to the whole thing is when you're using your own people to do the work, they have a complete understanding of what they're working with in the future, not taking over something that somebody did and then you don't know how it works.
The biggest part, Paul, you're absolutely correct, is once we go in and we're used to working as a team with these people and everybody fits together nice, it's not like a month later we get the scout hall turned over to us and things aren't working, the alarms aren't ringing, and everybody's pointing like this, well, it wasn't me, it was the electrician, or it wasn't the electric, we wired it to work correctly, it's the SCADA guy. We don't have those issues. So there's no months after we're done, this is gonna be about a week. At the end of that week, this thing is gonna be functioning.
If any of you drive down Route 5, right across from Southern Auto, get a pump station down in the gully there, we did that one about 2 years ago. And we had pricing, we had engineers' estimates for that, along with industrial park, which is right up at Mushroom Factory. Those two were right around $2 million. Now granted, we didn't build it to how it would have been built otherwise, but they're functional to practical. We did both those stations for probably less than $300,000.
The engineer's estimates were.
Engineers, it was $2 million.
So can we get back to the hookup situation? How did that happen to begin? Do you guys sign off on hookups when they happen?
Yes, we do.
Okay, so WPCA signed off on the neighbors hooking into this particular pump station.
But one thing I will say, Jason, I've been here for 7 years, and we've really never understood who owned it, who maintained it. I have some memos that go back to Linda Roberts and Kevin Leslie with recommendations as to it would make most sense if you took this over, if you maintained it. But there was never anything brought before the WPCA back at that time to accept this.
Never happened.
So there was a lot of memos, there was a lot of, I think, understandings, but more people I talked to, the more confused I got. That's why.
So, again, though, you're talking about the ownership and the
Yes.
maintenance piece. You're not talking about the who's supposed to be on the pump. So how did that happen?
Well, I think that happened because the way that we look at it from WPCA, if you want to connect to the sewer system, first of all, there's got to be a sewer in front of your house. And so we encourage that because that's how it's economy of scale. So we never really thought of, well, who actually owns the station? We've always maintained it, whether we should have or not, and according to that.
Well, but
Yeah.
again, it's not the who owns the station.
Right.
It's how did people get hooked in who weren't supposed to be hooked in?
Well, because we never know they weren't supposed to be hooked in, because I just came across this agreement on Monday.
Yeah, I'm not saying this is Art's fault. I'm saying
No,
like,
it's okay,
you know,
right.
but now we have a situation where there's a private service that some residents are
Right.
availing themselves of, that the town is being told we have to pay for. And I don't think that we do that in other circumstances. Am I wrong about that?
That, I don't know, because
Best guess.
from our end, our job is to provide service whenever we can. If there's sewers available, we want people to connect, we will provide sewer service. As far as why they were allowed, you know, that I honestly don't know.
Let me ask the same question a different way then. Why is this solely the town's obligation instead of also the abutting property owners?
That, well, it doesn't, it could be the abutting property owners too. I think Bob started to mention about.
We were heading in that direction.
We're heading in that
All right.
direction, yeah, so.
Let's go there.
Okay, we're ready.
Benefit assessment. Anytime there's a benefit in a sewer system to any property, a benefit assessment can be imposed.
A benefit assessment is, so you're not talking about a cost benefit assessment, you're talking about, this is actually a WPCA term.
No.
No.
Benefit assessment is a statutory term, and it is when property owners get a benefit, they can be obligated to pay for it.
Okay.
It's that simple. okay?
So you collected it when you hooked up show
And-
stables, didn't you?
No, no.
You didn't?
No, that is not a benefit assessment.
Well, let me,
Please don't mix the facility connection charge and
Well, the
benefit assessment.
FCC, you
They have
collected an
nothing to do with
FCC,
each
didn't
other.
you?
Absolutely. But they're
Well,
separate.
Then there's your money.
let me explain, because I.
Okay, I'd love to hear this. Because I've got a lot of questions too. Jason isn't the only one.
A long time ago, when I came to East Windsor, I got a bill from the WPCA, and it was for $1,600. And I said, what is this? And I checked into it, and on Newberry Road, a sewer was put down there, I'm not sure exactly when, and a pump station was put there. And it was put there by the town, and the town paid for it. But they said, they put a caveat on all the deeds who have benefit to this sewer pipe. There was a lot of vacant land there. People used to go hunting there, vernal pools. And so so when I went back to my lawyer who closed the deal, I said, what is this? What's this caveat here, after I got the bill? And he said, well, I thought that was a dormant clause. Well, it all of a sudden arose from the death. And so that was at least 5 years after the pump station was in. Well, by that time, the property had been sold and divided up into building lots for Newberry Village. So now they were assessing each, and they were collecting the money from this caveat on the deed, assessing each property owner, because now there were a lot of property owners with houses on it that could now pay the assessment rather than this forested property or conservation area. So that's what we could do here, I think, if we wanted to. We could say, well, we will use a benefit assessment, and if the cost in now $25,000 for this pump, this new pump, well, the Scout Hall uses it, but also the horse show case uses it, and these property owners use it. And so by assessing how much they use that pump, I think that would be, and that would be kind of up to the WPAs to determine the fair assessment, but I think it would be up to the Board of Selectmen to say we're going to have a benefit assessment to recoup some of our monies. The town hall is ours, so we could pay ourselves, but we wouldn't get too far with that. So we could get some money from the people who are using our pump station in this sense.
And there's a historic situation here too.
Go ahead.
Tromley Road, there was a benefit assessment that was imposed. And the town decided that they paid for that project, and properties were assessed. But the WPCA gets the task of calculating the benefit assessment based on the percentage that the Board of Selectmen chooses to impose, percentage of the total project. Same thing happened north of Sophia's when we extended the sewer that way. The same thing was done. Would have been done on North Road, but because of the USDA situation, if we imposed a benefit assessment, they just would have reduced the money we got. So we didn't. And that was a decision.
Good rule.
Well, it was appropriate. And, but the key being is, so far, in the history that I know of in the WPCA, the selectmen have always said 50% of the cost. Assuming that whatever happens with sewer is for the good of the entire town. And so half the cost will be borne by those that get the direct benefit. I'm just giving you information, I'm not telling you how to decide.
So do you know how the determination was made that other property owners could tie into the pump station?
There was no known restriction, because, again, the pump station existed, sewer was available, and that's all that was ever looked at. Not who owns it.
Dick has a question.
Okay,
It does
this
speak in
this
there,
charade's gone far enough. Number one, I directly remember sitting in the WPACA meeting when it was discussed, when these other properties were hooked up, and it was brought right up that it was a town pump station, and when you guys hooked it in, you made it a public. So I think by adverse possession, it's your station. Furthermore, is there any motion from the Board of Selectmen, which would own the pump station, to allow you guys to hook outside properties into it? I don't think there is. You shouldn't, you can't, and you've been collecting benefits, and you've been collecting all your hookup fees and all that for how many years? I think this is yours, guys.
Can I say something?
And what I would like to do is put a bomb in it and connect it to gravity to Route 5 the way it should have been in the first place. Then you'd open all that property up for development. But I think adverse possession, you guys own it, because state statute does not allow you to put public sewage into a private system. And you know it, and I know it.
Casey.
Okay. I think the house and Scout Hall and the stables,
Oh, go right ahead, yeah.
I think are all kind of put together here in one way.
I can make a copy for myself.
Who originally built the Scout Hall?
Yeah.
Who originally owned Scout Hall?
The town owns Scout Hall.
Yeah,
Let's build it though.
Yeah,
Owned the
but-
property,
but prior,
and the East Windsor Scout Hall Building Committee Incorporated
didn't,
got permission from the selectmen to build the building on it. We raised the funds and built the building in its entirety, but the ownership went to the town when we were done.
if you recall, I believe, Mr. Tribble traded land
That's absolutely
for that.
correct.
He traded the land so they could build Scout Hall there.
He
The house next door was owned by Mr. Tribble.
No, that's.
No, I thought,
It's not.
no,
You're
no, let
getting
me,
your
I'm
time.
thinking here, I'm thinking, so let me talk and
Go
then you
ahead.
correct me, okay?
Yeah.
Right. I thought he owned the house, which he let Scout Hall collect the rent from it. And he also owns the stables. And that leads me to believe is the reason why these three properties are all hooked into the same pump.
But then furthermore, it does talk about allowing.
Some way, somehow, that's what I think.
The land transfer took place because the land that was originally going to be used on Stoughton Road
Right.
was a bigger benefit to him than this land that he owned over
The
here.
land on Stoughton Road was also kind of a swamp.
But
This
still
was a
would be
much
a
better
bigger
piece.
benefit to him. So
Sure.
the
So
land
he
swap
swapped.
took place
Right.
and $100,000 cash, which is how the soccer fields got done.
You know?
And that was the land.
So who actually came up with all the money to build Scout Hall?
The East Windsor Scout Hall Building Committee Incorporated. We had the Hartford Foundation for Public Giving, put in $40,000 for the roof. The state of Connecticut put in $200,000. We collected bottles and cans, we had tag sales, we had benefits, took years.
There was another thing that I recall. He owned that house.
Car raffles, too.
And he gave the house, I'm trying to think here, he gave the house to Scout Hall so they could make money on the rent.
But that came
But if they
after the
ever,
fact.
if they ever gave it up, for some reason, it reverted back to him.
Not
That's all I
exactly.
can think of.
That's,
Not
that's,
exactly.
that's if
So
I'm
here's
remembering
the deal.
correctly.
This
here.
was after the Scout Hall was built, and Mrs. Davis owned that house. Then it sat empty for years. And yes, he picked up the tab on it,
Did he
and
buy the house?
John Burnham bought the house like he usually does. He puts out a check.
Yeah,
You know.
okay, come on, we know how the system works.
And, okay, fine.
John Burnham bought the
Yes.
house.
With his
Originally,
name, with his
yeah,
name,
with his
okay.
name originally, right. And then
You know how it
that
works.
got reimbursed, but the Scout Hall Building Committee was given the property, and we renovated it and rented. And The caveat on that is if anything happens to the Scout Hall Building Committee, you can't sell that property. It reverts, I believe, to the five-corner cupboard, because almost everything that is done in that way goes back to another charitable organization. It doesn't stay with Mr. Triple at all.
Well, I think the three got hooked together because it was all kind of a, you know what I'm talking about.
But it was done at different times. It wasn't done all at once.
Then it was private, so those folks must have agreed to hook the house into it and then run it up the street, hook it into Staples.
The intent when that pump
Okay.
station was put in to be capable of servicing Abbey Road.
Okay,
No.
Not according to this. So this is a memo that Art found from Commercial and Industrial Design Associates dated July 27th, 1999. And it says that the proposed sewage pumping station was never identified to be and has not been designed in storage volume capacity or in the pumping equipment requirements to operate as a town pumping station for the requirements of serving all landowners on Abbey Road. It specifically says not that.
Okay.
And then later it says that one of the known facts is that the system serves only a single user and maintenance and operation is the responsibility of Scout Hall. This is a massive problem.
Oh, yeah, well, yeah, that's why we're
Have you
here
guys,
tonight.
have you guys talked to, I see Lenny in the back, have you spoken with DPW?
Yes, we did mention to them when we found out that it appeared as though that this was a town-owned pump station, not a WPCA pump station. And I believe that you spoke to Joe.
With Joe.
Yes, but that was well after the last Selectmen's meeting. when
Yeah,
we
exactly,
brought
that's what you just
originally.
recently-
We knew nothing about this before that.
Right.
Zero.
So you want to come on up?
Not particularly.
I'll ask questions from far away, I'm not scared.
No, as I said, we've been trying to understand this for years now, and as you can see, it's very confusing because it kind of contradicts depending on what you read. And I guess in my opinion, this was recorded on the land records, where this was something that, I don't even know who these people ever wrote this. I've never heard of them, but again, so I was kind of going more by that.
Well, Rick
The land records don't speak specifically to the pump station, though they speak to the general arrangement between the town and Scout Hall.
Exactly.
Rick Senecal was our architect. He was also on the committee,
Okay.
just to complicate it further. Now, I believe when that was written, that was probably the original intent, which goes back to the time where the lease was generated. That was before construction ever started.
When did Scout Hall open?
2000, October 2000,
When did construction start?
probably a year before.
So it would have been at or about the time of the,
Yeah, because this happened
Possibly,
first.
but I believe the pump station was upgraded to the purpose of supporting Abbey Road. Whether or not that was done with everybody involved, or whatever, I have no idea.
is there anybody left around who can speak to this from those days?
I'm not
Jason,
sure.
one thing I wanted to point out, the contradictory, if you read the last paragraph here, I didn't highlight it, but it does say that, kind of contradicts what else that document says.
Doesn't surprise me.
What else is known?
Right.
Well, it only kind of contradicts it.
Well,
So the Scout Hall Committee have, at considerable additional expense, designed the proposed sewage pumping chamber and pumping equipment for additional connections, if required in the future, as a temporary measure to, that's their error, not mine, as a temporary measure to satisfy the needs of immediate abutting neighbors on Abbey Road in the event their leaching systems fail. So how long is temporary becomes a question. How long they've been hooked in becomes another question. Have the abutting leaching systems failed?
you don't temporarily connect to the sewer, you permanently connect.
That's
So
correct.
why would they have provided for it on a temporary basis?
Again, I can't
Good
answer that.
question.
I've read these things over and they are so confusing.
The pump station doesn't belong there. Simple as
That's
that.
to me.
Do you have anything to add?
I don't think it was designed to take care of Abbey Road, number one. I think it was designed with one purpose in mind. Excuse me. And as soon as private connections took place and they accepted connection charges, they took over the station, whether they did or not. I agree with Dick, it belongs to them, or at least the maintenance issue belongs with them. If Scout Call was the only thing tied into that, we probably wouldn't have a problem right now. We got 3 other users. And none of this was brought to our attention. This is supposedly been going on for 2 months. And now it's an emergency.
Well, what is, maybe you guys are the ones, what is an emergency? Is this an emergency like they're not gonna be
No.
able to use the facilities by the end of the week?
I've been discussing this with Kim Ward for months. I realize Kim is no longer here.
So that tells you it's not a, like, the sky is falling emergency.
Well, when the first pump failed, I brought it to Kim's attention, and I get a litany of emails going back and forth. So why it wasn't brought to anyone else's attention, I don't know. Again, you can see from the documents what I tried to dig up and what I tried to figure out.
I think you've done yeoman's work in trying to piece together something that this is like a chicken and egg thing in a pretty serious way.
It is, no question about it. Difficult. Now, the problem with the pump station is that it has 2 pumps, and one is no longer in existence.
The other one's working twice as hard.
Yeah, that means its life is being shortened, and they're already at the end of their life by a couple of years. So, or more.
It's worse than that, Paul. It's if the one that's running breaks down, there ain't
There's
nothing.
nothing left.
Then you better run down to the local pump supplier and hook something in quick, which you could do.
How long would this take, how long would this work take to do from, if the board told you guys, absolutely, we'll pay for the whole thing, go ahead and get started on it tomorrow morning? When are you done?
Well, provided we had everything on hand, I would probably say within a week.
Okay, so it takes a work week in order to do it.
One of the issues, though, the pumps are 3 weeks out. So if we order the pumps tomorrow,
It's still 3 weeks, 4 weeks.
And Lenny, your recommendation is that this is not the town's problem?
Absolutely.
That's what I'm saying too. I don't agree, I don't think it is. When they hooked the outside sources into that station, it became public, which is theirs. And I don't think if you go back through the Board of Selectmen's minutes anywhere, you're gonna find out that anybody was authorized to hook into that pump station. I mean, they got management control. I don't see, you know, I'm sure you're not gonna find it. Because they all, and this is before Art, so. You're innocent, Art.
Oh, no, I'm not.
You know, I'm sorry you're in the middle of it, but.
I think that's not what we're looking for. We're not looking for a little point, we're just trying to sort it all out.
I don't want to see the pump station fail
Right.
when then all of a sudden we have to turn people away. I'm trying to avoid a crisis. And this didn't just start last week or last month. This has been going on for a while. When it came to be an issue is that we don't have a budget for Scout Hall. We budget for all the 9 other pump stations. So that's when I brought it to the sewer commission. After I had talked to Kim Lord about it, this probably goes back 6 months now,
This is, the
Oh,
one
yeah.
of the 2 pumps has been down for 6 months?
No. When we had trouble with it, we pulled it out, we took a look at it, we did a minimal repair to it, knew then that it was probably needed to be replaced because it was beyond the building. So we're really good about getting things to limp along for a while.
Is there any option to get this to limp along?
No.
It's actually like
One of
broken
them
to
is
the part
dead.
where, you know,
Oh,
junk
it's
it.
dead, it's dead, oh, yeah.
So if this isn't the town's obligation to, you know, following Lenny's line of thought, if this isn't the town's obligation to pay for it, whose is it?
I don't think I can answer that. If I could answer that, I would have fixed it already.
I mean, let me ask you this a different way. In circumstances similar to this where the town is not a party and it's a business and 3 residences that happen to be, whose obligation would it be in that circumstance?
Well, it's kind of hard to answer. All other 9 pump stations are owned by the WPCA. So there's never any question about who owns it. We have budgets for it, we have line items, we have plans, this is a little bit different, it's like a square peg fitting into a round hole. There's always been confusion as to who owns it, who maintains it. And again, after reading these documents, it just made it even tougher.
Apparently, the WPCA has been maintaining this since day one.
Yeah, and that's why I showed you.
So why is it now, because it needs a little more extra maintenance, with a little more money, the town's problem?
Well, and we got the same problem they got. We don't have any money in our budget for this. especially coming out of the blue.
Well,
And why should we be budgeting for WPCA responsibilities? You guys are a separate entity.
Are you guys collecting money from those 3 locations?
Yes, we are, sewer use fees, that's correct.
Connection charges, I'm
No, no,
sure.
$1,400 a year.
From each
I'm sorry?
one?
Plus the
Connection charges
FCC
for
charge.
those connected.
Huh?
1,400 is a total.
Plus
Maybe
FCC.
those charges
When
should
they
go
hooked
to the
in.
town.
There's money there.
So if this were the town's obligation, we would have to follow all of our town policies, and there are policies for stuff like this, particularly with the dollar threshold, which would mean that we would have to go out to bid. We would have to have it administered by Lenny or his department. But again, there are good points raised about how this is not the town's. Explain to me, maybe I'm still looking at this. Explain to me, so because they have been collecting a fee and because they have been doing the maintenance since inception, at what point does ownership transfer?
When the first outside connection was made. By state law.
Well,
They
then let me go
cannot
back, okay.
have a public sewer
That part
going into a
I'm
private.
unclear about. If you could explain that, that'd be.
Well, let me ask you to explain something. Let me turn this around a little bit. Let me ask you how Farms Road and Acorn Farms was allowed to be public into private into public.
So I have no idea what that circumstance was.
But nobody seemed to be bothered by that until it came to our attention, and then we took it upon ourselves to make it right. Is that not correct, Paul?
So what was that?
pretty much.
I don't know what happened there.
Farms Road, Acorn Farms, those are,
Right.
what do you call those?
Okay, what you have is,
But who approved those sewers? You guys.
No, I didn't approve the sewers.
You didn't, you weren't here.
No,
Sorry.
they weren't our sewers.
I don't know what that circumstance was.
yeah, what you have is virtually, the active adult housing is virtually a condo type situation.
Yep,
And they had a sewer system that they put in.
at their expense or at the.
Their expense with no input from WPC of any kind and connected to Depot Street.
Which is a public sewer.
Then another development was put in, and that development had an agreement with this development to run their sewers through there. Still okay.
Developed by the same guy? Or same developer?
Different
Different
developer,
developers.
but 2 private entities
Yep.
made an agreement. Farms Road was approved by planning and zoning, and the sewer system was to connect through the other 2 private entities.
Acorn and Hillside.
And that is what blew up, because we had absolutely no input of the design or the implementation of the sewer system in those 2 private things, none.
Let's see why.
And because like in every condo and apartment complex, it's all been done with private sewers.
But those private sewers are able to hook up, I think I'm off the topic.
They connect to the sewer system in the road, but they're responsible for their own sewer system in their complex.
It's just like South.
Well, in a sense, but you've got like, Scannick Glen is an example, okay? We have nothing to do with their roads, we have nothing to do with their sewers, we have nothing to do with anything except they connect to the street. That's it. Everything that's inside. Of course, when there's a backup, they make one call, WPCA. They don't know who else to call. Even though it's an association issue, the association has no idea what to do with these things. A number of years ago, and I'm not even gonna worry about how many, but a number of years ago, we changed our regulations. There are no more private sewers built in the town of East Windsor, ever, anywhere.
Prospectively.
That's correct.
Yes, that's correct.
So, for example, when Walter Bass came up with his condo project on Winkler Road, made it very clear to him, Walter, the sewers will be ours, you'll build them the way we tell you. Okay, you don't care. Nobody cares. It's just a matter if you let them do it their own way, they'll do it their own way. So, with that Depot Street thing, we had an agreement with the association that the sewers would be televised and brought up to standard. Anything wrong would be fixed, you'll pay for it, then we'll take them over. But that was because DEP said, yes, you will, but not as is.
So all
They
I'm
had to be
saying-
brought to standard so we could take them over. We cannot take over sewers that don't work.
But you already did.
What do you mean we already did?
The pump station, you took it over.
Not-
By connecting into it, you took it over, as far as I'm
Yeah,
concerned. And I
I
think
don't
that,
understand how your rule works. Do you have a mechanism by which you can recapture some of these costs from the people who are actually availing themselves of the service?
It's called the benefit assessment.
So the benefit assessment so far, in the history of the WPCA, 1983, somewhere back there, wherever, I think it was 83. The WPCA has never imposed a benefit assessment on anybody that the town didn't tell us to, because it's only been done on projects the town paid for. Now, can it be done is a legal issue,
What's your lawyer's?
but the history is that it's never been done. It's always been a project the town paid for, like installing sewers, and then a benefit assessment was imposed to get the town some of their money back. And that's where the money goes from benefit assessments.
To the town, not to the WPCA?
It goes to the town.
WPCA
Is that
doesn't even
statutorily
collect
established?
it.
That is, yes.
We don't
So if you
collect
guys
it.
were to levy a benefit assessment, it would have to come to the town?
Well, let me take
Maybe
that
not.
back for a second. Whoever put the money out first, in this case here with Tromley Road, Prospect Hill, the town did that.
Yep.
So the town is to do the benefit assessment.
Right.
Other towns, the WPCA puts, the WPCA can't bond. So the town bonds.
Right, when you
WPCA
did
guarantees.
the plant expansion, we bought
Right.
Exactly.
So that statutorily, whoever fronts the money gets the money back.
Right.
Does that make sense?
Yep.
Okay.
Yeah.
So, to Paul's point,
Mhm.
can the Board of Selectmen or the town direct the WPCA
Yes.
to levy a benefit assessment?
Yes.
Can we direct you not to?
You know, you could not, when you, okay, are we talking about if the town put up money?
I'm just not sure how,
It depends on who puts up the money. If the
Is there a
town put up the
statutory-
money, you could say, we want money back through a benefit assessment.
if the town doesn't put up the money, can we, do we have to
No.
direct the WPCA to levy a benefit assessment, or does the WPCA have the unilateral
I believe we
authority to
could
do
do
that
it on our own.
Yes, they can do that.
to get Melissa taken care of before then.
Those statutes are on our website. It's called capital cost recovery. We actually have a link to it on our website because it does explain, we've been through this at WPCA, explaining understanding benefit assessments. And so if you go to our webpage, there's a link on there. It's called capital cost recovery. And it will speak to a benefit assessment, Jason. It's the statutory definition of what a benefit assessment is.
And then we have to get down to the benefit assessment. If it was to be imposed, would the town be exempt from paying it? I doubt it.
Why would we be?
Why, we already paid.
Exactly. That's my point. Why would you be? I know with the state of Connecticut, they don't pay benefit assessments.
Well, yeah, but the state has sovereign immunity. The town doesn't.
There we go. So,
Right.
if a benefit assessment was imposed, then, you know, if we put the bill and we go out for benefit assessment, the town will also be part of that.
Which would be fair, right?
Be fairer.
But it would be a dollar obligation.
And then we'll sell you the pump station for exactly what it cost our part of it.
So, how about this?
How about we, Melissa's waiting here patiently, and we gotta adjourn
I know, we got a
here.
full agenda. I didn't-
You know, I'm sorry, but I'd like to get her done so she doesn't have to sit here. or-
Never in the history of the town have we actually taken Melissa out of order so she can get home and spend time with her kids.
I don't want to cut you guys short, but
I suppose I have a request. Could we revisit this in 2 weeks, and in the interim, could you guys work with DPW to determine a plan, or at least a recommendation?
Fair enough.
Right.
To the extent that there is some sort of middle ground here that can be,
and I want to see those documents you got, Jason, in our packets. What
well,
I
this-
found.
I should return them, actually.
Yeah,
This is
I want to
yours,
see
guys.
those in our packets.
I will make sure that.
Before
We'll make them
the
available.
meeting.
We'll make them available.
You're asking us to return.
Appreciate it.
Meeting in 2 weeks.
I'm asking you to speak with Lenny and Joe at DPW and see if you guys can come up with a plan, and then whatever the end result is, you guys come up with a deal, you don't come up with a deal, whatever it is, you come back here in 2 weeks and we try and take it from
Okay,
there.
fair enough. Great idea. There you go.
So I would move to discussion of the pump station repair and scout.
Thank you very much. Thank you.
Take care, all right?
Yeah, thank you.
Can we get Melissa to
Yeah,
take care of
Hold on. I move to postpone the discussion of the Scout Hall pump station repair until our May 16th meeting.
it? Second?
Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Melissa,
Which one is hers? See?
we're going to talk about the National Prevention Week.
Yeah, I'm just here in case you had questions.
Okay, all right, then we'll go to the National Prevention Week. And Melissa requested that we, and rightfully so, make a proclamation. And today we made a proclamation, so I'm going to pass that out. And,
Melissa gets to sign it?
I get to sign.
I'm taking on your Bob. Gotcha.
There's an old-
I don't need that.
Okay, I'll read the proclamation. Substance use and mental health problems affect all communities nationwide. With commitment and support, these other behavioral health issues can be prevented. The focus of the National Prevention Week 2017 is to prevent substance abuse and promote mental health. This year's National Prevention Week theme is I Choose. Recognizes the power of each person to influence the health and well-being of others by making prevention choices every day, whether it's by supporting someone who's going through a difficult time, participating in activities to strengthen the community, or by instilling healthy habits in children from an early age. Through Prevention Week, National Prevention Week, people become more aware and able to recognize the signs of mental health problems and substance use. Equally important, community members of all walks of life, what they can do to make each day by helping to prevent these problems. We all have a role to play in keeping people around us, ourselves, healthy and safe. We and others across the United States need to recognize the seriousness of behavioral health issues in our communities, to the power of prevention and the tireless work of those working to make a difference. The small daily actions done by individuals combined with the actions of families, communities, and coalitions come together to make up the larger, bold movement of prevention. For the above reasons, I am asking the citizens of East Windsor to join me in observing National Prevention Week 2017. I, Robert Maynard, do hereby proclaim May 15th through 20th, 2017 as National Prevention Week in East Windsor, Connecticut, and call upon our community to observe this week with compelling programs and events that support this year's theme, I Choose. So that's our proclamation.
I would
So
like to-
moved.
Well, I was gonna make a motion to have the first selectman sign it, but that's okay. If you wanna go that way, second it.
Okay. Discussion? Melissa, you want to say something?
I appreciate you participating in National Prevention Week with us. We have some fantastic events planned. And
Usually do.
those will get out to you by the end of the week.
Okay, good. We'll put them on our website and Facebook.
You need a vote?
Further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Okay.
Barbara got something. The Trails grant?
Oh, you want to do the Trails grant?
Kelly, we got time? Does everybody
Yeah, I guess
mind?
we can.
2 minutes.
Well, we just sit there and turn the clock until it,
All right. It's just, we need permission for me to sign the grant. And then in your packet is the certification of the resolution. Joanne Slater will certify that I signed the grant and support it.
This is for the DEEP one, right?
Well, no, this is for the Melrose Bridge.
Yeah, it's 11E.
Yes.
I'll make a motion to authorize the first selectman to sign on behalf of the town for the resolution for the grants for the DEEP as their sample.
The second?
Second.
Discussion?
I want to thank Barbara Sherman for putting this grant application together herself.
Good job, Bart.
This is a huge win for the town, and it's on her shoulders that this got done, so thank you very much.
Sure enough.
There's a vote.
Okay, all's in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Perfect.
I'll make a motion to recess this meeting to go into the joint meeting.
Okay. Second, to recess for the joint meeting, all those in favor?
Aye.
Okay. Okay, we're gonna take a break.
Gonna have to. Yeah, me too.
Yep. No, we went out of order.
I'm much more comfortable here than in that chair.
Careful, you're on camera. I'm
This is the new iPad? To bring the model. Hello. Go ahead. I won't run you over.
Are we like sitting together? I do better on trading practice.
I'm trying to get gentlemen sitting on this side.
Yeah, there's a lot of chairs by Jason in case anybody wants to.
Board of Finance, well, not really.
I'm good, I think I did.
You're all right.
Yeah, we're all here.
Up to the day.
I'm not sure you have a meeting. Yeah.
We're planning on voting anyway, so.
That's why I'm unclear about this. Notice by Bob, not by the individual board. And if somebody can't call a meeting of the board, they don't sit on it.
Thank you. She's sitting here next to me.
We're the only ones voting.
She can take your seat if you want. Nonsense across the street. How much?
I'm not making an issue with that.
She would.
I care about you now.
That's great.
Okay, let's call this meeting to order. And should we, go ahead. Should we elect a moderator or anything like that? Somebody should, huh?
I said you're hired.
All right,
Who called the meeting?
all right, I called the meeting.
There you go.
All right,
Moderator.
then I'm the moderator. So I'll recognize people and they'll speak and everything will be good. First I'll speak though, because first, what I found out, I got this thing. East Windsor High School cracks top 30 in U.S. News Connecticut rankings. And East Windsor the high school is ranked 29th, and there's out of 288 high schools in Connecticut and 140 districts. So congratulations, that's fantastic.
Thank you.
I just want to know why that isn't on the front page of the JI tonight.
Well,
Everybody runs our school system down, well, that's a little vindication.
yeah, wow, it's very impressive. Okay,
I
Kathy.
just want to make it known that we do not have a quorum tonight, but we're here to participate in the discussion. I did not anticipate that we would need a vote tonight anyway, so
Okay,
I just want to make that clear.
glad we can all discuss our concerns and 'cause there are, in fact, well, go ahead. Does somebody want to start?
Well, you want?
Go ahead. All right?
No, I'm just saying the agenda, do we have to do?
Well,
attendance,
okay,
public-
I'll start, I guess, just by asking, I don't know the difference between 1% Board of Education carryover account and a revolving non-lapsing account. Are they one and the same?
No, they are not.
Okay,
Two different things.
Jason,
Jason's
Did we
taking-
do attendance and public participation, or
No,
are we
we
just
didn't.
skipping those outright?
we just skipped those outright, but we can do agenda approval?
Well, we're doing attendance, that's going around.
That's fine, thank you.
Yes, the sign-in sheets attendance.
All right, does everybody approve the agenda?
I make a motion to approve the agenda.
Okay,
I'll second.
all right.
Hold on.
I'm not an official.
Second,
So because of, hold on a second, because of the way this was noticed, I think that only members of one board should be making motions and voting
All
on
right.
particular issues.
Okay.
Cross-voting is not gonna work.
okay,
So if it's the Board of Finance, that's fine. If it's the Board of Selectmen, that's fine. It can't be the Board of Ed. 'cause they don't
now
have
we'll
a
make it
quorum.
the Board of Selectmen.
We're the ones that gotta do it anyway. So her motion doesn't count.
Okay, so is there a motion to approve the agenda by the Board of Selectmen?
Motion.
Second, is there a second? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Okay, We're doing attendance, public participation. Would anybody like to say something? Okay. Now, I will ask again, what's the difference between 1% Board of Education carryover and revolving non-lapsing account?
So the two issues before you this evening are the establishment of a 1% account by law. The Board of Selectmen and or the Board of Finance, I know it's been going back and forth between the two boards who would establish it, has the ability to establish an account that could hold up to 1% of the current Board of Education budget. It would go over into the next school year. It is not something, it's not a savings account, it can't accrue more money than that. And then it would be used at the discretion of the Board of Ed. There is no mandate to make an MOA. Excuse me, you can just establish the account. Some districts have done that and put caveats on it. That would be up to East Windsor how you want to handle it. The other issue is that of our revenue accounts. And in our monthly meetings with Kim Lord, she had conveyed to Andy and I, Andy Paquette and I, that our revenue accounts were non-lapsing, meaning that the tuition that we take in for special education students could be used in the next fiscal year. Board of Finance, in the budget that we presented to them, saw that there was a line in there to do that for $400,000. Questions were asked about that, and we pointed out that that was coming from special education tuition from students that we take in from Enfield, and then for our Hartford students. Andy and I recalled Kathy Gabral, former treasurer, saying that our accounts were non-lapsing. And we resurrected a vote by the Board of Finance that you voted back in 2012 to make those accounts lapsing. So what we are petitioning is that there be an establishment of the 1% account, and that you make rescind, the Board of Finance rescinds their vote to make those accounts lapsing and make them non-lapsing. This would allow us not to do the spend down that you have seen us do at the end of the year, that the treasurer's office finds cumbersome. It would streamline the process and be better planning for the future. What we did this year was we put a spending freeze in place around the holidays, because we saw what was going to be happening at the state and with that budget. So we were able to curtail spending and put a place marker for next year to offset any reduction that we would see. We were already seeing grants being reduced, and we anticipated, we certainly all cope with a 2% increase. Right now, Board of Ed is at 1.55% increase as it goes to referendum. So by having the ability to spend the $400,000 for next year, it'll keep our services in place. If not, that's up to Board of Finance and certainly Board of Selectmen how you want to go with this. If not, we'll continue doing the spend down, which is, as we all know, a more cumbersome process. So.
Okay, questions? Jason?
So in whatever Kathy Cabral is around.
2012.
No, 212 was when Kim was here, and we changed it from a non-lapsing to a lapsing, is what she said.
No, it was under Kathy Cabral. Actually, it was 2012, April 3rd, 2012.
So prior to that, it was a non-lapsing arrangement, and then the Board of Finance at that time changed it to a lapsing arrangement.
I don't know that it was ever non-lapsing, Jason. I just know that because I don't have the history, I came on in 2011. I just know a vote was taken to confirm that it was lapsing. Kim was under the impression that these accounts were non-lapsing, and that, of course, they would be non-lapsing. And Andy and I were saying, there was a vote taken, we're pretty sure there was, and then we looked it up. By that time, Kim had left. So we're just seeking clarity on how the Board of Finance wants to go with this.
So this is a Board of Finance matter, but I've got a couple of questions anyway, and people seem to be listening. Are there any GASB or GFO, I'm sorry, Gail, are there any GASB or GFOA requirements?
This is a part, I mean, it was always handled by Kim Scavato, Kim Lord, and the Board of Ed. I've had zero.
We reached out to the auditor, Mike Vandeventer, and asked him, and he said it's up to local rule, what way you want to go with it.
Again, it's not a Board of Selectmen issue, it's a Board of Finance issue, but it would make sense to me that it be a non-lapsing, but just that timeline makes me wonder if there was some sort of a government finance policy change somewhere that
At the
Langdon wouldn't
risk
know about.
of getting everyone agitated, it was around the 325 issue that resides somewhere in the recesses of our minds.
I don't think are those linked issues?
I think they were linked. That it was trying to be linked, that.
One had to do with prepayment of healthcare, the other had to do with
because of the
special
account it
education
was kept in, was
tuition,
the SFSF account.
which was
and
state grants.
Actually,
State funding for schools stabilization,
Yeah,
something like that?
originated at the federal level, but I think that issue is what predicated this vote. So,
Just to be clear, we're not speaking about general fund revenues.
no, we
You're
would be
talking
talking
about
about,
your tuition, your
Right.
building rent when you
Right.
do those.
so it would be the prepaid tuition account, it would be the sped tuition account, and there's two aspects of that. Currently, we have students that come in from Enfield, and then our Hartford students through choice.
Not FRC?
FRC is separate from the Board of Ed, their funds do not commingle with ours.
Because I think those are the fund 27, the 2765 funds that we call them. Are you familiar with that?
Yeah, I'm not gonna verify that.
Because when I asked Kim about this, Kim Scavato, she said that the accounts that she interpreted that Andy was referring to, we allowed revenue carryovers when documentation was provided that it belonged to the following year. But like, if you have like a building use, there was always, revenue. There was a reclass of expenses against that. So they would be washes.
Yeah, this is it's not the building use, it's tuition accounts.
Right.
And that, in fact, this year we were allowed to, a payment from Hartford came in July, and it was given to us. And that's what started the discussion. Kim said, this is your money, of course, and it was for payment that happened in the previous year.
I just remember her bringing it up, I don't remember. Yeah. I think, just in my opinion, I mean, we got clarification of what the two are, and as far as B, I feel as though that's something we need a lot more information on, and we need to go back on history, and we need to reach out to Kim, and we need to get more information. I don't think B is something we can solve tonight. I think we came here for A, and we can probably get somewhere on that, but I think we need to look at a lot more information for B, so that we know we're all on the same page.
Let me just tell you that certainly you've got to do what you have to do, but let me just tell you how the dominoes fall with that. The fiscal year is ending. In our budget, you saw that we were planning on $400,000 in those tuition accounts to be used for next year's budget. When we wanted to be sure we're all on the same page with this, we realized that we needed to bring it to Board of Finance's attention so that there's no surprises at the end. So what we've already instructed our administrative staff to do is to begin the spend down. We were trying to avoid that. That is cumbersome for all of us. It certainly has caused some angst in the past. Last year went much more smoothly, but it would be to everyone's benefit if we could have the non-lapsing account and be able to keep money there to offset the needs for the following year. It's not extra money, it's money we choose not to spend by spending freeze.
I got questions. The 1% carryover account. Just explain that to me again. That's 1% you want over your budget to put into an account to be able to use as you guys see fit.
It's not over our budget, it's not additional money. It's from the budget itself. So the law allows for this type of account where you could put in up to 1% of your budget. So for example, like this, next year, if the referendum passes, we'll get a 1.55% increase. I think certainly in our discussions with Board of Finance, we all agree that even a 2% increase is not meeting our needs. This would help us sustain our services, that we wouldn't have to cut people.
Why would you want to take 1% of your budget and put it in this when you actually need that money to operate? Why would you, when I owe the bank money, I'm going to say, well, I'm going to take 1% of my money and put it in a bucket, but I'm not going to pay you today. I mean,
We'll go without.
I don't understand that, why you'd want to do that. And you need the money, why you'd want to try to save it. That's one
Well,
question.
we're not saving it, we're saving it for the following fiscal year to use it in
Yeah,
that
but my
year.
thing is, you need it this year, and then the spend down. I think I know what that means. When you have money that you haven't spent, that you were allocated, what that means to me is, you gotta spend it and get rid of it. Now, say if you didn't spend that money, where would that money go?
Okay, so let me go back to your first question. The 1% with that is, we would deem that we're not going to buy materials in a year, and we've already done that this year. We stopped buying anything in materials, in contracted services. We halted it. Our philosophy is that we best serve our students by the people we put in front of them. So we preserve the positions we have to the exclusion of buying things. So that allows us to do that. The spend down is that we will purchase materials that we need for the subsequent year. We've already gone without materials this year. We will buy materials at the end of the year. That will free up the material money that's in our budget, and that will be applied to positions. And we've been very transparent with that. That's how we're sustaining the services that we have for students. And thank you, Bob, for pointing out the accolade that we just achieved. That's pretty impressive for this community to be named one of the best high schools, not only in Connecticut, but in the nation. Because of our ranking with U.S. News and World Report, we earned a national ranking. That's pretty impressive for this community. And that's due to the manner in which we apply the funds that we have for the services for the kids.
So just to follow up on Steve's point and to a point of clarification on something that you said that you were going to, essentially that you could, trying to think of a delicate way to say this without sounding.
Just say it.
You said you could basically bank the money for next year, but that's not what the statute says. There is no prohibition on the number of years that it can roll. It doesn't have to be spent down next year.
It doesn't have to
It
be,
can't
but
exceed
it
1%.
can't exceed 1%.
So it's not
But
going
that's
to
not
get
to
larger
say-
and larger
Right.
every year. It's always just going to be 1%. It's not like we're going to bank.
But you save the 1%
That's
this year
only
doesn't
if you have
mean
it.
you spend it next year. That's an important distinction that I don't think was clear.
But the other reason that the spend down would happen is because we're afraid that money would disappear if we don't spend it. That's what we're saying. If it's a non-lapsing account, if we don't spend that $400,000 and the town takes it back, that's the concern that we have, so.
But what is wrong with that? What is wrong
Hold on a
with
second, hold on. She's talking about the non-lapsing account question, Steve's talking about the 1% carryover question. So they're two different discussions. We should probably do one and then do the other. But another point that was made is that you forego spending on things like supplies in order to put that funding forward for teachers and carry over the 1% into next year. But sooner or later, you're going to run into a problem with that. Because sooner or later, you're going to have to spend the money on supplies, and therefore you're not going to be able to carry that over into the next year, which is going to create for you a staffing problem.
Yep. Or we take a staffing problem now. We're trying to push that problem down the road as much as we can.
And we've been doing that for several years.
Exactly.
And
Doesn't the process snowball?
so far it hasn't, and that.
But you haven't been able to do it yet.
Well, we have been doing
She
it.
means the state.
Pocketing the 1%, you haven't.
No, we haven't done the 1%, but what we've done is we've gone from not buying supplies in a year, and then we buy them at the end of the year when we're sure that nothing catastrophic has hit, and we've been able to sustain our staffing like that. We lucked out all but 1 year recently where with unforeseen special education costs, and we had to get an additional amount of money from the town, an added appropriation, when a lot of special education students moved into town simultaneously, and that happened at the end of, in April, I want to say. So we've seen that, but we've been able to juggle and be able to keep our needs, our staffing needs met. You know, I think we're all in that position with the cap of the 2% when the referendum fails, what do you do? And this is what we've come up with, and it's been successful for us, but it's cumbersome. And we see that there are two options that could be put into place that might make it easier.
How much of your budget is expended year to date?
I know that it was sent to you, I saw, it was sent to
Board of
Geraldine
Finance asked
that
for it.
very
Yeah, it was
Jason, I
when
saw
we did
your
it
comment,
before.
and we left this meeting,
It was
or the Board of
back then.
Finance, and sent it to you that night.
So I
So, to
didn't,
Board of Finance,
Yeah,
because that's who asked the question.
no, I asked the question the last time Dr. DeBarge
Oh,
was
did
here,
it?
specifically. And I'm still waiting on a response to that.
Are we talking
I
about the
don't,
question?
We're not
I
talking
don't
about
recall
the
you
same
asking that question that night. I don't have any notes that indicated that we needed to provide any information.
I'd be very curious if I could have that information. And I also asked how much over the last 3 years at the year end had been spent down. So how much of your appropriated budget would be available for a 1% carryover? Those were the two questions I asked the last time that you guys were here.
And this year, it wasn't available. What is available is, as we put in our budget, is $400,000 that we would like to see be allowed in a non-lapsing revenue account. We were very transparent, we put that right in our budget, we discussed it with Board of Finance during our presentation. So there is no more money over that. That is what would be
Teresa, I
available.
couldn't find that email from.
Yeah.
So your 1.55 that you're proposing, say if the 3 referendums fail, you would get 2% anyway, right?
Yes.
Yes.
So why didn't you just do a budget that was gonna be 2% anyway? I don't get that.
We did a budget that was higher and it was cut by the Board of Finance. We didn't come up with the 1.5.
I would think that if it was at a 2%, that would have flown, because that's probably what it's gonna end up being anyway.
I understand that, but we came to the Board of Finance with what, a 4.5% increase proposal, because that's what we felt the Board of Ed needed at that time, and it was reduced by the Board of Finance.
So you guys cut it to 1.55. Is that because there's an extra $400,000 sitting
No.
there?
No, and I would say read the minutes of our meetings, because there was great discussion about everything, and that would have been one of the items on how we leveled out the money, how we set it up so that the budget would go through. And this item, I believe, the first one, A, didn't we already pass this by the Board of Finance up to the Board of Selectmen?
Well,
Not the
it went
details.
to the selectmen because of, we wanted the
Policy
memorandum of understanding.
Okay,
Which
so.
we can't do.
Right, so at
I
this
know.
point, in regards to this 1% thing, we're waiting for the Board of Selectmen to make a decision so that if we can do our next whatever we're supposed to be doing. But as far as the budget goes, that was based on a broad vision of where the town's at, what kind of revenues we're getting, what we can expect from the state or not expect from the state. And that's what we based our budget on. There wasn't any one target. Did I answer that correctly, fellow Board of Finance members?
Close enough for government work.
Hey, there you go.
So one of the discussion points at a point in time had been that if this fund were established, it would be for capital purposes only.
That was ours.
That was our discussion.
Is that not where we are?
And then, that was our rough draft. and
Right.
That we shot to the lawyer. But then when we found out we couldn't do it, I sent that copy to Bob, and Bob and Kathy discussed her concerns over that one, over ours. So really.
I didn't really discuss, I sent one email.
Yeah, sent email. So, shot the email of her, I think it was 3, right Kathy, 3 concerns she had. And it being capital was one. So that was our actual original one, so if it changes, it's up to them. How do they feel about it?
I think it would be advantageous tonight for the Board of Selectmen and the Board of Finance and the Board of Education to really work on the 1%, because that's what the Board of Selectmen really is involved in. So we should decide what we're going to do about the 1% Board of Education carryover. Why don't we focus on that at this point? If there's anything you feel that you bring up that has to do with lapsing in regard to this 1%, then that's fine.
I agree.
I got a question here. It's probably gonna fail 3 referendums, so if they get their 2%, 0.45% more money that they're gonna get than you guys allow them to have.
$100,000.
How much is that 0.45%? What does that add up in extra dollars?
It's $100,000.
How much?
100,000.
100,000, is that what that would be?
Mm-hmm.
And 1% would be approximately 220,000. Would that be a fair assessment?
Plus 2%.
No, that's right, because there's a $23 million budget.
That means with 100,000 and the 4 is $500,000 there.
I will say that when I asked questions during my questioning of the Board of Education, sorry, I think for that, I saw the $400,000 in it, and I did ask the question, and I asked Andy, he says this was because it was a carryover, and it seemed at the time that that discussion was made during our budget hearings, or whatever you want to, workshops, that was an acceptable carryover, because I do remember asking that question, and the answer at that time was yes, but apparently after the fact, it came out that was a non-lapsing account due to a motion from years ago. So, as part of the budget that was presented to us, that $400,000 was in there. I remember specifically asking the question of Andy if that's an acceptable practice to carry that, and he said yes at the time. So apparently, there was some misunderstanding between, maybe just at the night of the meeting, we didn't know that, or what, I don't know what the reason behind that
I think
So
at the
Andy
time
was
we were
going on what
Kim was
Ward
saying,
had
Kim
said.
Ward was saying, and then further discussion back at the office afterwards, they kind of remembered.
Because I do remember you saying that was for tuition dollars that came in during whatever, and it was acceptable to carry that from year to year, because I did ask that question, but
that again, I think that's the non-lapsing account.
that's the non-lapsing one, apparently that was set up before my time, or before, I had no knowledge of it. But the 1% was also figured into that budget, but we knew that had to be passed by the Board of Finance, but because we wanted a memorandum of understanding, it has to go to the Board of Selectmen, so.
The 1% is not built into our budget.
It wasn't? I thought it was, okay.
No, it's not.
All right.
No, it's a concept that we were talking about.
So it was the $400,000 that was in there, but not the 1%.
400,000.
But we talked about the concept.
Right,
Okay.
the 1%, let's make it clear, if you don't have a 1% to put in at the end of the year, you're not gonna put anything in.
That's right.
If you have a 1% at the end of the year, what you wanna do is take it, instead of spending it down, you wanna put it into 1% and use it for the following year. Am I understanding that correctly?
Yes.
And then the discussion we were having at Board of Finance, I think Geraldine said it, is we weren't sure about whether it has to be used for CIP or.
Well, no, we created our.
Okay, see, I knew there was more than this, thank you.
Yeah, and then, but when we found out that we couldn't,
Okay,
that's when I sent it to Bob.
there we go.
Because,
And then I would say too, that if
Right.
you, at the end of the year, you really only, you say, well, we have $50,000 that we could spend right now in the next 2 weeks and then not have to give it back to the town. Or we could put it into, if we had a 1% account, we could put the 50,000. You don't have to put 1% in, you can
Right.
put anything
Anything
less.
up to.
Yeah, up to, yeah.
But, I mean, for us to use this the way we want to use it means that we can't restrict the way that 1% is spent to capital projects. We don't really even do capital projects per se. Those go through CIP. So putting money in there and having it be only for capital projects, as the memorandum is written now, really doesn't help us at all.
Just seems to me, when you spend the money at the end of the year, like most departments do, in town government, because they don't want to lose that money the following year, and they all do it. I mean, right now, town garages are going out and they're buying salt like crazy right now, because they don't want to lose that money for the following year, when they could give that money back, you know?
Is it that they don't want to lose the money for the following year, or is that they want to make sure they have enough salt for the
No,
following
they
year?
don't want to lose the money. I know all these guys, and they tell you the same story over and over. And, I mean, if you went and you spent $400,000 on supplies and stuff, that just tells me that that's a lot less money you need next year.
No, what it means is we're buying the things that we need next year with this year's money, so that we can use
Yeah, but-
next year's money to pay for
I
the
understand, I
teachers.
know
Doesn't
that's
that
what
say
you're
that you
doing,
didn't
but
need
that
the
would be
money this
less
year, though?
money you would need the following year because you spent previous
No, what
year's
it
money
means
to
is
buy
we took a
things.
hit in our materials this year. Just because we never have enough money to do all the things that we would like to do for the students of East Windsor. I mean, let's face it, we have librarians who, we don't have all of our libraries staffed all at full time, all the way across the board. That we should have a librarian in each library all the time when school's open, and we don't. So those are the things that we juggle and we take away from in order to be able to put teachers in front of the kids. And paras and tutors and coaches and all of the things that help kids learn. So we're constantly juggling and taking materials away, not that we didn't need them, but we need this more. You know what I mean? It's not that we don't need those
So if you
materials,
need to
it's
do
that we're
this, why
trying to
didn't you spend this
balance.
$400,000 already on another person to go into the library?
Because we saw what was going to be happening for next year. We took a hit on a federal grant, we took a hit on a state grant.
Which hit on the state grant?
Alliance grant.
But that's not necessarily determined yet.
We took a cut in it this year.
This current fiscal year,
Yeah.
fiscal year 17?
Yeah, yeah. Took
And
a
we're
cut
told
in the
to
federal
plan on it
grant.
next year as well.
Yeah, and then that was reinstated at the end.
Wasn't,
So-
oh,
I'm
sorry.
sorry.
Wasn't part of the discussion too because we're not sure when how much revenue is gonna come in at the end of the year?
That happens
there's
as
a
well,
big-
yeah.
There's a big unknown. It's not like they get all the revenues up front. They don't know how much they're gonna get at the end of the year. There's a lot of unknowns there, and so this is a way to kind of manage that. That was
We're
what
constantly
that's
looking for
what
input
they-
to find out, are we going to get the grants at the levels that we expected to get them at? We don't know that, but the money doesn't come in until this time of year.
Also,
So-
we don't know the level of need that we will have during the year for special education students. And
Right.
as I previously reminded everyone, we took a big hit a few years ago when several kids moved in at the end of the school year, and there was no money to pay for their programming. So
Are
You
we
finished
very
that year in a
conservative?
surplus too, though.
In a surplus, I believe we spent down zero. I don't think that there was a surplus.
I
Number
think
just
we were
went
able,
down.
I think we were able to give some money back though, because once the student didn't,
Right.
yeah. We
Of
spent down.
the added appropriation.
Yeah,
The
we
added
were able to give some of
appropriation,
the added
yes, we were
appropriation,
able
because we
to
took
give some
with
of
the
that back.
caveat
We
that
took
if.
it as a contingency, if
Yeah.
we couldn't make it work, we wanted to know we had that.
Right, and you're saying they're looking at it as the money that they saved to spend down. You're looking at it that they had money to spend down, so it was a surplus. You're looking at it two different things.
Right.
I was actually agreeing with Steve about.
All right, somebody else
No,
get
I
in
know,
here
but I'm
for.
just
Yeah,
saying.
Dick wants to say something.
Yeah, you know, I mean, this is all well and good, except what it's really boiling down to is you're looking to take monies that weren't spent during the year for whatever reason, and using it to offset expenses on the next year. You shouldn't be using prior year's money to support a current year's budget. It's bad business. If that money is indeed surplus, you shouldn't be going out like Mad Hatters the last day in June and trying to spend it all. It should be returned to the taxpayers.
As we explained, it's
And
not surplus.
you guys have never done that.
And we never will.
We
And
have
there's
done that.
agencies in this town that have done that.
We did do that. When I first joined the board, we did do that.
Well, you should have
And then-
continued it.
Well, and then we were asked to put in for a zero increase, and when we did, we were then cut further.
Because
And at that point,
And-
we were unable to
And the
continue
other
to give money
comment,
back.
and you sit on the board too, we do not handle any CIP under $20,000. You guys have got projects going right now that are under 20. So don't say that you don't finance capital repairs, because you do.
The projects we have going now are being paid by the Alliance Capital.
Yeah, I know.
Right,
But-
they're not
That's
being
not
paid out of
town
us.
But you got some other projects that you're working on.
It's
Right,
not
that's
town
grant money.
It's grant money.
It's all grant money, every darn thing you do.
Source matters.
Not the way I remember it. I don't think we should be doing this. I mean, you know,
This was,
the town has to manage their money right down to the nickel, and you know what? What isn't paid July 1 goes back into the general fund. And you guys should be doing the same thing.
We don't have a general fund.
We have a general
Well, you're right.
fund. The money you guys are using belongs to all the people in this town and not the Board of Education.
It belongs to the students of East Windsor, and we spend it accordingly.
Belongs to the parents that paid for
Of
it.
East Windsor.
It belongs to, it's allocated for the students, and we use it for their use. It's what was voted by the taxpayers, and we use it for the students as they voted. So it's your choice, you know, it's up to you folks how you want to do it. We just wanted to show you that there was what we think is an easier way, a cleaner way to do it. As we said, Kim was under the impression it was already established like that. I did not want any of us to live through another debacle like we all did with the 325, so I was seeking clarification with Andy. We better check this out. This is what Kim was saying, but we know under Kathy Cabral it was different. So we researched it, saw the note, saw the vote, and said, whoa, maybe Kim was unaware
The
that a
lapsing,
vote.
you're talking about the
Why do we
lapsing.
keep bringing Kim up? She is no longer working for the town of East Windsor. She is not the treasurer. She's the treasurer in Manchester.
Yeah, April 2012.
The 1% allows for a little more thoughtful spending of the money too, rather than saying, oh, we got to spend this right away. You know, instead of saying, okay, if we could just, you know.
How much of this money's gonna go towards benefits and pay raises? There's a lot of silence here.
It's because it's not really a real possibility. That's why nobody's answering.
Don't tell me it ain't a possibility.
The most they can ever have is 1%, which means if next year they take this year's 1% that they saved and spend it, then they have to save it out of next year. So the only bad thing that I see in the long term is what you were saying, Jay, which is you're just kicking this down the road. Eventually, it's
Some
gonna.
year it's gonna be a problem.
It's gonna run out.
Darn right.
But I don't
Maybe,
think
but-
it's, and I'm not arguing with what you all are looking for, but that would be the biggest concern I would have. Because no matter what their budget is, if their budget went down 10%, don't have a heart attack. But if your budget went down 10%, they would still only be able to take 1% of that new budget. And I think that's why the Board of Finance said, well, would I do this in business personally? No, I don't think I would. But that doesn't mean it isn't done that way. That doesn't mean it can't happen. It's just in the long term, I don't think it's going to solve problems. But boy, if it could eliminate some of the spending down at the end of the year, where they're getting some contract in May, where they probably should wait till July to fulfill that contract. I'm just looking at it from how we have to be on this date here, and not everything's done by then. Now, as far as returning the money to the town, hey, I always like to see money coming back to the town, but I think they're watching their budget as much as the departments are, so. And I don't know, but that's the one thing I see, and Jay's right, kicking it down the road, you're really not getting anywhere with it.
So in 10 years, I don't think I've ever once voted no on a budget at a referendum. Full disclosure, I'm a yes. But I just don't know how we could put something like this in place and then not have taxpayers knowing that we're parking 1% of, an additional 1% of funding in the budget presentation. I mean, it's just, you might as well like plant a flag. I mean, it's going to be very transparent that we are budgeting more than we need to spend.
It's horrible it's happening right now while we're in the middle of getting a budget voted on, I agree. Because it makes it look like we're trying to do something with these.
Well, I disagree with the budgeting more than we need to spend. Clearly, we're not spending everything that we need to spend today.
But it's not in our budget, and we wouldn't know until the end of the year if we have it left or not. So we wouldn't even be able to technically budget for it for the prior year, because we don't know if we're gonna be able to spend down or not. So I don't know.
You're right, it's not
Right.
we're putting it 1%
For special ed, it's
aside,
gonna get spent.
absolutely.
Right,
It's
so it's
just
not an
the money
absolute thing
the
that
money
will be
that's
there.
left at the
Right.
end of the year,
Right.
instead of going crazy spending it down, you're putting it
Right.
in an account.
Because where we don't know what we're gonna get for grants, we don't know if
I'm
we're
just
gonna have a
explaining what it
contingency
is, I'm not
happen.
taking a side on
So if we do this, are you guys comfortable with it being for capital purposes only?
I don't know, that doesn't solve the problem that we're trying to solve.
So then the
And
request,
this was capital non-recurring, so my understanding of capital non-recurring would be like a project, like irrigation in a field or build something.
exactly.
Not capital things, like books and capital materials. That's capital, but a different kind of capital. We don't
Capital
really
that would
do
fall under
capital
the town's
non-recurring.
policy.
We don't really do that. The ones we're doing now are Alliance grant projects, and the rest of them are, except for an occasional carpet replacement, everything is really capital improvements. A
So
little
then,
bit of paint, a little bit of this, but we don't do 1% of our budget worth of capital projects, capital non-recurring projects. That just doesn't happen.
so then the request is that the town establish an unrestricted 1% account.
Yes.
That's,
If there's money left over
It's up to
at
them.
the end of the year, instead of turning it over.
What controls are there on that?
The BOE would have the control as they have on the initial budget money. They would have the control.
it will ultimately get spent the same way it's being spent now. It's going to be spent exactly the same way. It's just not going to have to happen. I can go back to another year where we wanted to, I forget the name of the company, but they said, if you wait till July 1st to order that instead of June 30th, we can save you money. So, because it's going to be a sale there, so why don't you wait and we can save you $1,000 on that order. Why would we not do that? It'll be things like that at the end of the year where we can do things in a more planful and non-rushed manner. We're not trying to get vendors in the door and contracts signed by June 30th. We can do that throughout the summer. Because again, we don't know until the end of the year whether we have the money to do those things. Because if our grants don't come in where they are anticipated to be, or if our costs for special ed or anything else have a contingency, then that money just isn't going to be there to put into an account.
What are the grants that come in at the end of the year? Just
Well,
to
the
give
final
people
payment-
ideas.
Yeah, the final payment is on all of the grants at the end of the year. You're doing the drawdown throughout the year.
That's March though, right? Isn't that the end of the year for state grants?
Not all of them. I think there are some in April that we can draw
I feel
down.
like we're still talking about them in our April meetings.
Right, and the federal grants just got approved that we're seeing if the federal government is gonna stay open or not, just. We got an extension.
So you're
that
trying,
they'll always-
you're trying to
And,
hit
you
a
know-
target that's still moving
Exactly.
Right.
toward the very end of the year. Is
Exactly.
And our
Is why
revenue
you-
payments
and-
may not come in a timely way. There
And
is
so you,
no-
so you do the spend down now, but
Right, so we
Putting
have,
it in
you know, we have
an
kids coming
account.
from Hartford, but if the sped costs for those kids are not paid until the 1st of July, then,
And like we were saying before, where the state doesn't approve its budget until after we've already presented ours, we don't know what's gonna change with that either. Because you said the grant monies are
But everybody's in that boat.
This year, everybody's gonna be waiting until Columbus Day to find out.
but I think that's one of the reasons
But
that the
that's
state
one of the-
statute was
yeah.
written for this 1% fund. I mean, there was a reason the statute was written, and this is it.
You know the statutory reference for this?
10-248A.
10 what?
248A.
248A, I have it right here, Jane. That's pretty good.
No, I want to see the legislative history.
the. He was right. Found it in the collection then.
Geraldine, when is the next Board of Finance meeting?
It was-
Do you think that that would be an agenda item to speak
Yeah, I
about
was just
that?
looking that up, I think. Yeah.
the
Calendar
17th.
there. Is the 17th?
Yeah, I think that's right.
May 17th.
And would that be
There
an
is
agenda
no
item to
Yeah,
speak
I can
about
put it
that?
on, yep.
Because certainly if you guys don't have a decision at that meeting, we'll have to proceed as though we're not going to be able to lapse that account.
That's item B we're talking about for the next.
Yes.
Thank you.
And what needs to happen for that to be approved, the 1%? What are we looking at the process? It's
1% is Board of Selectmen.
the Board of Select, it's in the
Well,
Board of
my understanding
Selectmen's.
from the statute and from the legal opinion we got from our attorney is that the Board of Finance can simply create the fund, period.
That's true.
And that's
You
it.
can create.
That's all that's necessary to be done. The rest of it, MOUs and all of that is not required.
MOUs can be
That's-
created by the Board of Finance, they have to be done by the Board of Selectmen.
Right.
Just setting up the account and putting whatever restrictions you guys deem appropriate on it, you're welcome to do that. But the request from the Board of Finance to the Board of Selectmen was the establishment of an MOA. That's what we're talking about. That's why the Board of Selectmen are even involved in this.
Right.
Right.
And I understand, you know, you guys had your previous comment about Kim not being here anymore, but that was one of the things that she was very particular about, that we have a memo of understanding, so. That is where, you know, we all.
And that's a preference, it's not a requirement of the statute.
That's true.
Correct.
Okay, it's so quiet now. There's silence. Does anybody?
And the Board of Finance kind of gave it a not, if my recollection is okay, we were okay with this to some extent. We did take a vote that said,
That you wrote, yeah, and then you guys voted on the MOU, it's just easier.
Yeah.
You guys voted on that, but like I said, now that's going to change. So you guys have to make sure you're comfortable with that, and they would have to create it. Or you guys can decide not to do it, not to do the MOU, and just do it. So kind of, the waters are all muddy again.
So I'm so glad we came to the meeting tonight.
Well, no, I mean, they've been muddy before then, because we found out we're not policy setting, and then, you know,
Right,
whatever.
or we're not.
We set the
Nope,
policy.
we're not.
so what needs to be done next?
And what is the next step? I mean, I guess you guys as a Board of Finance need to decide probably if you still want the MOU, if that's something that you still want, because then we as two boards have to try to work that out with the Board of Ed. So.
And that's
I'm
kind of like,
believing
why
really
we,
that's the next step. But I
It
could be
really-
wrong, somebody else shoot
Why are
something
we
out
here?
there. And like,
It really is a take it or leave it proposition. You know, it's not a negotiation per se. I mean, we should solicit feedback, but at the end of the day, it's if the Board of Finance wants to do this, you may do it. If you want to do this with some sort of codified conditions, then that's for the Board of Selectmen to do. But beyond that, it's...
So if the Board of Finance wanted to either approve or disapprove this, the Board of Selectmen are willing to wash their hands of the situation?
Depends on if there's going to, if
Well, I'm trying to understand, but what I heard
no, you
was,
just kind of lost me, I just.
Yeah, if you were gonna do it without an MOU, that's the Board of Finance's.
but we were advised by the
Just-
treasurer to get an MOU, weren't we?
She's not here anymore, so listen.
Well, you
Apparently,
know
we
what?
shouldn't be bringing up her name.
I'm not, excuse me,
No,
I'm not a
I'm
professional, so I'm gonna
You're
listen to a
correct.
professional. So that's why we're here talking to you.
And the MOU would consist of,
Well, if the Board of Selectmen would have to create it, it would be their policy. So what we would need for us to operate, if we were smart and following our professional advice, is we would need a motion from the Board of Selectmen that they don't require that in this matter, and then we could move forward without a memorandum of understanding. But I think it would be up to you all to deny it, wouldn't it?
well, they want to, I mean,
No.
isn't it,
Okay.
They would just create the, what?
I'm just having fun watching them trying to figure this out.
Oh.
Hey, you know, we all voted on it, and we were told it needed to go to the Board of Selectmen.
For the MOU.
Right.
Because you created the MOU.
Right, and the MOU has
Is
to be
something you
created
have
by
to
the
do
Board of
with them.
Selectmen,
Correct.
Which you gave to
which
Bob.
we sent to the Board of Selectmen to do.
Correct.
So the Board of Selectmen have two choices. They can create an MOU or make a motion that it can operate without an MOU, right?
Or opt not to do it.
Or opt not to.
Or
Or
not
opt
to
not,
do it.
so there's three
Not to
choices.
create it.
But they have to make the choice now before we make our next decision, don't they?
or I guess not
Correct, I
even,
guess.
not even
yeah.
take it up?
All right, wow.
I mean, because we
That was
sent it to
scary.
them.
Yeah.
If we hadn't sent it to them, we could go forward, but because we sent it to them and made that our decision,
I think time to make a motion.
Make a
Okay,
motion,
I
I think.
I would entertain a motion that the Board of Selectmen moves not to make an MOA regarding a 1% account.
Okay, I'll make a motion that the Board of Selectmen opt not to create a 1% account and further recommend to the Board of Finance that they don't do it either.
Okay, that was two different things. He said not to
But
create an MOA.
He is not running, he's running the meeting, I made the
Okay,
motion.
so you're making
And
that
remember
motion.
that.
Okay, I'm just being clear
No.
with that.
I made a motion.
Yeah.
Is there a second? Somebody gonna second it?
Read that again for me, Dick, please.
I made a motion for the Board of Selectmen not to create an MOA for this and further urge the Board of Finance not to do it either. Real simple. Keep
Not
this
to-
year's expenses in this year.
That means eliminate the 1%.
Absolutely.
Second.
Okay, so now there's an interesting,
There's only three of you.
there's four.
Whoa,
Sorry.
All right.
I'm sitting right here.
So it's been moved and seconded. Yeah, discussion.
What have we been doing for the last
Okay,
half
but
hour?
I think, well, your motion, I would discuss your motion. When I heard your motion, you said we were not going to create an MOA. And that we make a recommendation to the Board of Finance?
Right, not to do it, not to fund that 1%. We shouldn't do it.
I believe the correct motion was urge the Board of Finance.
Right, urge, we can't tell them what to do.
Can I ask for clarification on your motion? The first time you said it, you said not to create a 1%. The second time, you said not to create MOA. So
Same
it
difference.
Can you read the
was
motion?
No,
restricted at the MOA. I just want to make sure that.
Really?
Should be the same thing, right?
I got it, that the Board of Selectmen not make an MOA and urge the Board of Finance not to make one either.
Not to make
We can't make it.
So-
Right,
Don't worry about
that's
it.
what he said. That's what I have. So
That's what was seconded.
So I move to amend the motion on the table. That the motion reads that the Board of Selectmen does not approve an MOA between the town and the Board of Education and urges the Board of Finance not to establish a 1% carryover.
Well, I can second that.
That's your motion.
Yeah, I'll second
my
that.
amendment.
That's clearer than mine.
Okay, that's clearer.
That's much clearer.
Okay.
So we got a made and
I'm gonna have to
seconded.
go back and watch it
Votes, right?
anyway,
Two votes
to get
now.
you guys.
All right,
Because
so
You
I
amended.
amended his motion,
Right.
so we need to vote on the amendment.
And then
Once the amendment is adopted or defeated, vote on the underlying motion. Is that right,
the
Mr.
underlying
Parliamentarian?
motion as amended.
Very good. All right, further discussion.
Thank God.
You got it right. You just said it better than I did.
Is there further discussion among the Board of Selectmen members?
On the amendment.
Okay, all those in favor, say aye.
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 Okay, I
Now
guess,
you got to vote on the motion as amended.
okay, now we got an amended motion. So all those is there any discussion on the amended motion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Okay, so what is the motion, Jason? Just for clarity, I think I could say it, but
The meeting's over.
what are you doing, Jason?
He's writing a
I was
motion
writing
for
it for
me.
her. He had it so nice too.
This is when you would get up from the poker table, grab your winnings and leave.
This is a paraphrase, but it essentially does what we decided. The motion is not to make and not to establish, no, make this one. Not to make an MOA between the town and the Board of Education establishing a 1% carryover account and to recommend that the Board of Finance establish no such account.
Okay, sounds good
That's
to me.
clear. That's what's in the official record now, right?
All right, I'd entertain a motion to adjourn. Unless
Joint
some-
meeting.
Yeah, we voted.
Oh, yeah.
We voted.
We did
We
vote.
voted on it.
So there's a second public participation.
Well, no, we got more business in the selectmen's meeting we got to do.
No, there's a
We're not
second
done with this
participation.
yet.
Oh, this one, okay.
Any-
Keith is up.
Any public participation? Yes?
Oh, just a couple of things. So first of all, I think that the 1% is on the whole a good idea, because at the end of the year, you get a lot of wasted spending, just to spend money. And the Board of Finance can monitor how much carryover goes from year to year. So the Board of Finance could pick up if there's too much carryover in the following years to adjust the budget. So as a way to have some checks and balances if there's under expenditures. The second thing is, I'm not sure if you're supposed to vote tonight because it's a special meeting. The vote wasn't on the agenda. And I don't know if you're not supposed to add items. You can add items to an agenda at a regular meeting with a supermajority vote, but you added an item to an agenda on a special meeting that wasn't on, so.
We didn't add anything.
It's not on, there's no resolution on there, but I don't care. I'm just saying that I think that it wasn't on, the vote, the resolution to vote was not on the agenda, but I'm just pointing that out because, you know, I mean, it's probably the right call for the Board of Selectmen. I'm more concerned about the other issue I just want to talk about for a second, the discussion about the non-lapsing account that's related to special education funds. So from my experience, and I'm not saying it's happening in this district, but what happens sometimes with boards of education is, or school districts, is that they account for all their expenses for special education in their budget, but they don't account for all the revenues. And so all the revenues coming in from the Hartford, you were asking what questions you want to look for in the future. The revenue that comes in from the Hartford school, from the state. The revenue comes in from the Enfield school students from the state. The revenue that comes in for the grants for special education. Just make sure that all the revenue is accounted in your budget, because you don't want to have a situation where your expenses for special education, for example, are in your budget and you're budgeting money, from taxpayer money to pay for it, but that all the revenues are not accounted for, and they come in and the school can spend those freely because they just go into the school budget and they don't get mixed into the carryover here. So I'm not saying that's happening in this town, but if I was looking at questions, if you were gonna do if you were gonna convert it from a lapsing account to a non-lapsing account, I would wanna make sure that all the money, the revenue that is going in there was accounted for as revenue in the budget in the first place. But anyway, I think the 1% idea, the comments are, if people are gonna waste money, if they're gonna waste money, I'd rather not see them waste money at the end of the year, and then rather plan for spending the money, rather than blow it on iPads and calculators and whatever they buy at the end of the year so they can spend on the money. I doubt it's going for stuff that should have been, that meaningful stuff that would have been spent during the normal year if it had to be spent. Those are my comments.
Thank you.
Marie?
Yeah, Marie, this was a 10 ratio. I just think the timing of that 1% is off. I would think that the Board of Ed should probably look at it again next year before the budget process is completed, so this way it's built in, so it doesn't look like a slush fund, and I'm going to use the word slush fund because that's how it's being perceived here tonight, as a slush fund. Whether it is or it isn't, that's the perception it's going to be. So if you work it in with the budget next year, that there's going to be this 1%, I think it would be better received by people. And I understand what you're trying to do. I mean, things are tough, and you want to make sure that we don't have to lay off teachers and all that stuff. I get all of that, but I just think the timing is off for it. It should have been done sooner, or wait until the next budget process.
last year.
Yeah, we've been talking about it for a long time.
Yeah.
Yeah, but there's no resolve. You have to resolve it ahead of time before you submit a budget. That's all I'm saying.
Well, we're still trying to resolve.
Yep.
So it's coming back to Board of Finance.
Okay, further public participation. Now, I'd entertain a motion to adjourn.
It's gotta be you guys.
Motion to adjourn the special meeting.
Can't keep it, Jason, say it, Jason.
Steve, second?
We can hurry.
All in favor?
I don't know what that,
Okay. Make a motion to resume the regular first selectmen's meeting.
Good luck.
All right. Steve, is there a second to resume the regular Board of Selectmen?
Steve?
Seconded.
Aye. Those in favor?
Aye.
They're gonna get $450,000 more dollars.
Does not have because it's a county budget.
I sit down like this for you know, driving through Island.
It's a 2% town budget, not only education. You guys can give them a 1.5%. But the rest of the general fund make cuts as necessary. And that's what it has in the past, but it's not, it doesn't have to. Let's get this thing over with.
Okay.
Okay, I'll make a motion to approve the fiscal year 2016 State Homeland Security Grants Program as submitted and authorize the first selectman to sign if necessary.
Okay, where are we going?
Okay, so
Which one are you doing here?
11D. So it's been moved and seconded. Did you second it? Moved and seconded to approve the FY 2016.
Yeah, you said 16 is on here. I don't think that's
16 is on
right.
here.
Is that what it is?
It says 16 on this.
Well, let me look at the-
It says 17 on the resolution. I need to amend my motion to change the date to 2017. It's wrong on our agenda, but not on the resolution.
Yeah. Well,
So you want a second
Second
amendment?
amendment too.
Okay, you got the amendment? Yeah.
Here.
Yeah, it's screwed up here. Yeah, it's in there, it's 2017, Bob. It's in the document you got.
Okay. All right.
So we're corrected.
All right, so it's been moved in second to approve the FY 2017 State Homeland Security Grant Program resolution. All's in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Okay.
Okay, I'll make a motion to approve the tax refunds in the amount of $1,251.14 as per the list submitted.
Second? Those in favor?
Aye.
Just seconding things to help.
Aye. All right.
You could be first anytime you want, Steve.
Okay, Selectmen reports.
Okay, Steve without the A, dear boy.
No, actually, what I would have said here, I said earlier about the casino,
Mm-hmm.
you know,
Okay.
and I don't know, I'm supposed to be the liaison to zoning board of appeals. So I guess got approved to make more parking around this town hall, which is drastically needed, finally. And then some guy got approval to sell one car at a time. This is the way I'm reading this.
Yes.
You can have a car dealership consisting of one car.
Yes. Yes. That is
Well,
correct.
it got approved.
That's planning and zoning.
There we go.
That's not ZBA, Steve, is it?
Yeah, it says ZBA.
That's ZBA.
Well, guess what?
That was the
Jim?
last meeting.
That's supposed to be mine, but
That was
that's
the last
okay.
meeting.
Doesn't matter.
Whatever.
Don't matter.
Gave me something to
At least
talk
you
about,
did
right? At
something.
least I did something tonight, right?
Damn right.
Okay, Jason, you're up.
On April 19th, the pension board held their quarterly meeting. The town pension fund is up 57 basis points against the 12-year benchmark, down 27 basis points against the 3-year benchmark, and up 10 basis points since inception. Also, the OPEB trust is up 9.58% over the last 12 months. These all represent very strong fund performances, both for the pension and for the OPEB trust. That same night, the Board of Finance met. They finalized their initial budget submission to a referendum at a budget of $37,937,018, which would make the new proposed mill rate 32.09 mils. On April 22nd, Abby's Helping Hands held their annual Walk for Abby. The event had about 670 participants, which was a pretty good showing considering the less than stellar weather. I missed the Planning and Zoning Commission meeting on April 25th due to work obligations. The meeting ultimately was canceled anyway, which was good. On April 27th, I missed the Conservation Commission and Agriculture Commission meetings to attend a town meeting that was held to consider the ordinance restricting a casino in town. About 350 people turned out. After some delays, the town meeting ultimately voted 2-1 to reject the petition and the ordinance. On April 29th, the Lions Club held their annual roast beef dinner at East Windsor High School. It was a great meal and very well attended, particularly for one of those civic dinners. The cafeteria was packed. Later this month, Officer Bill Ludeman will be receiving a MAD Award for Excellence in DUI Enforcement. This is another example of the excellence demonstrated by our police department on a daily basis to keep our community safe. Congratulations to Officer Ludeman. That's all I have.
What date, Jason?
I don't know. He didn't tell me. He told me it was going to be around Mother's Day, which makes sense for Mothers Against Destructive Decisions, but I don't know that.
Email me, please.
If I can find out, yeah.
Okay, thank you, you're sorry.
Okay, on the 24th, the Permanent Building Commission met. Under unfinished business, Mod Space is submitted a schedule to finish all the repairs in the Broadbrook School, get it all done, and hopefully finish up. And the date is August 16th of 2017. They promise to be all done. We shall see. We have the continuing saga of the HVAC system. Still isn't balancing out right. I presume it's going to get fixed. It's not. We approved the change order for the dumpster pad and to rebuild the steps. The steps on the north end of the old building were horrible, and we gave them an extra on that. And the dumpster pads are way over in the parking lot on the north end of the property, and all the trash is generated on the south end of the property. So as you see now, that's where they are. That was an extra. That was approved. Under the East Windsor School middle roof, middle school roof, excuse me. The architect, Tom Hibbard, appeared and gave us a presentation. He has his plans and drawings are all done. The thing is ready to go out to bid, and it will be done, right?
I think you went out to bid.
It probably went out already. We haven't seen the bids back. We'll review them, and the job will be done before school opens in the fall. It's going to be mostly a standing seam roof with pitch on it. The flat roofs are going to be pitched, and it will gain some more insulation. So it really should be a big improvement. They wanted to do all the roofs because that way there's one warranty and the whole roof runs together.
Is that a metal roof deck?
Yeah, standing seam metal roof.
Oh, okay.
Yep, with a pitch.
Is it enough, so they're gonna have to make it pitched?
Yes.
Yeah.
They use tapered insulation.
Oh, okay.
And it's some real high R-value insulation, so we're exceeding all the current codes for insulation. So that's a pretty good thing. And they have, there's vendors in place ready to bid as soon as we get the plans and specifications and advertise it.
Because those standing seam roofs, what they do is they kind of put it together and they got a machine that crunches it.
I don't know quite how this one works. It's all
It's held
clipped
down
down.
with like clips.
Yeah, and it's held down with clips and they,
Right, so there's no holes.
There's
that
no
can
pierce,
leak.
there's no piercing in the roof.
Right.
Other than your vents and that kind of
That's a
stuff.
good roof.
It's a good roof. It should be, what is it, 30-year warranty on it? 30-year guarantee on it. The only big thing is, got to pick the color, somebody. That's gonna be a toughie, huh?
and it's the standing seam roof is a good roof if sometime down the road, if we ever want to put solar on it, it can be attached to the roof without penetrating the roof.
It's designed to carry the weight of the
It can
solar.
attach to the standing seams.
I have the same roof on my new building down there. Same thing.
What a difference this architect is from some other architects we've had. This guy took the whole thing in 4 weeks, turned it around with drawings and right up there, factual, set right down, bing, bang, boom. That's what we need. On to the Alliance grant. The permit is not yet pulled for the windows of the Broadbrook School. The shop drawings are finally done. The project should still be done in time to finish up for the grant. We can only hope. And that's the extent of that one. And last night, I went to the Zoning Board of Appeals. There was an application for the Board of Education to locate a freestanding electronic sign in place of the sign that's at the high school. It exceeds the square footage requirements, and electronic signs are not allowed under zoning. The board felt that there was no legal hardship to request, so therefore they unanimously voted to reject the request, and they recommended that to go to the planning and zoning and get a text change on the regulations. It's been on their agenda for quite a while to do this. Well, maybe this will bring it to a head, because the Booster Club has spent over $20,000, or will spend over $20,000 for a nice electronic sign. The biggest concern of the whole thing was these signs that scroll. I don't think anybody wants to see one of them where it keeps changing. There's just too much traffic on Route 5 to have signs that keep changing messages.
The towns have those signs. I think they're pretty good.
Yeah,
They get
or
the message out there.
a time limit on those signs.
The scrolling sign
You know, it's
is,
gotta be a certain message for X amount of, you know, for a minute or 2 minutes.
yeah, it's too busy of an area, and you got kids crossing, and buses in and out of there all the, you just can't have them, you have enough accidents without a scrolling sign to get their attention away from their
But
driving.
you know, other towns that I travel through have.
Not too many.
And you do look right at them because you see them and it tells you what events is going on in town. It tells you what meetings, special meetings that will happen.
Yeah, but they don't scroll.
Okay, there should be one out here and there should be one down in Warehouse Point somewhere.
But they don't scroll. They don't keep changing. They don't keep changing, so you get the second half of a message and the first half of another one. And
Well, the ones I've seen, the whole thing is there, then it disappears and another whole thing is there,
yeah, it could be.
you know?
But it's still distracting. It'd be better to put the message up and leave it up. But that's up to the Planning and Zoning Commission. I would presume there's gonna be a request at their next meeting for a text change.
So I couldn't put one up at the farm on the front lawn with my craziness?
Sure you could if you get a text change, absolutely.
When I get a text change to put all the signs I put up there now.
Yeah, but they don't change. Well, they do, you change them all the time.
Yeah, they change by me.
But that's it.
Okay, and I'm done too.
Gee, that was quick.
Yeah, don't have anything to say. Public participation.
Yes.
Yes.
Did you mention anything or speak at all, I didn't at your meeting, about doing some consulting with him?
I will.
Okay.
Okay. Yes.
Downtown meeting, 23 Bryce Road.
He's got notes.
Town treasurer, where do we stand on that? Have we got anywhere, or?
Yes, we're going to interview 4 candidates, probably May 11th. But that's tentative. We haven't gotten confirmations or, so that's tentative, but we're moving forward.
Okay. Comment I would like to make on the vote on last Thursday. We mentioned, and you all mentioned, that the handicap special, you guys should also think about the seniors. There was a group of seniors that sat there an awful long time, and they were there a long time. I mean, we walked a couple of them out to the car because it was late and they were tired.
Yeah.
I mean, something should be done next time to try to, you know, if you're over 70 or 65 or something.
Yeah, I agree
Just
with
to
you.
make it a little easier for those people, because one, it's dark. They don't want to go out in the dark.
No.
And my other comment is, how does going for this grant for the mill change DEP? Or it shouldn't change DEP, should it? And how much is it going to prolong everything?
Well, it shouldn't prolong anything too very much. How it would change DEP, they have to approve the site remediation. And if we tell them how we want the site remediated, right now, they're what UTAS is proposing is just to cover it all with dirt, tear down the buildings, and they'd be done. But what we're saying is maybe we want to have parking lots there, and that would be the same as remediating too, because you don't have dirt, you have asphalt, but that's okay. So we have to get it, we'd have to just make sure the DEP is comfortable with the way we want that remediated.
Okay,
And that should be very quick.
I wish Kevin was still here.
Yeah.
The whole point of this thing, the remediation, is because of the chemicals and the contamination in the ground. Now, if we're gonna make that into some sort of a building that's gonna house people or something else, doesn't that put us right back to where we were?
No, not house people. You
Well, I
can't
mean,
be
people are gonna
residential.
be still going in and out of it. It's gonna become a commercial
You
or
can
a
be.
tax,
Non-residential.
non-residential, but it's still gonna have people in and out of it. Now, is that property still contaminated for that?
No.
That's something I'd like to get a clarification on that, because that to me, I mean, we're talking about going for all these grants, and we had to get the people out of the buildings because it was so contaminated. Well, we're gonna be bringing the public into that.
Yeah,
Can't
but
sleep there.
yeah, you can't.
Huh?
Can't
live there.
Can't live there. You can have.
That's a pretty slim
Yeah.
window, isn't it?
You
I
go
agree.
in, you do business, and then you go home.
You know what? If you didn't use
Tom, that would
those
be an excellent
buildings,
question to ask of Dee.
I mean, just because I just don't understand what the difference is. I may not be,
It's a great question to ask Dee.
you know what I'm saying? Because I mean,
I do.
I agree with you.
we don't want to have anybody there, but now we're going to have a, you know, a resident home or a facility. I'm going to guess that this facility is going to be similar to the one on where duplicating methods is.
I don't know what that.
The old duplicate, whatever it's called. What is it? The elite?
It's called, it's
Elegant.
a church, right?
No, not the church.
What is that?
Elegance.
What is it?
Where they teach
Yep.
handicapped kids to be in society and that kind of
Similar.
thing.
Yeah,
It's gonna be
You
similar.
went to the
Could
ribbon
be.
cutting.
Yeah.
I mean, those people are outside doing landscaping all the time and everything. I mean, I just, I can't see ways spinning our wheels if it's not something that's gonna work.
Okay.
We don't even.
Well, we'll talk to Deep, I hope, in the next 2 weeks.
I mean, that's just, I mean,
Yeah.
Some of that property though could be developed, because it isn't contaminated. You get over towards Mill Street.
But where the buildings are,
Oh, yeah, in fact, right
that's,
behind
I
the
mean,
church,
right up there on
too.
the buildings, that's where
A
people are
little
gonna
bit
be.
behind the church, but.
A lot behind the church,
But
actually.
they, once you get over there towards Depot Street, it's clean as a, well,
Oh,
according to.
down,
Mill Street.
Yeah,
down Mill Street,
I
down
mean,
toward the
excuse
brook,
me.
it's okay,
Yeah,
yeah.
it's good down through there. You could, with a little bit of good remediation, you could get over a third of that site, probably
Wow.
not 2/3, 2/5.
We'll-
With very
hopefully
little
we can talk to
remediation.
them.
We don't know.
We don't know. We gotta have a paper with a stamp on it. And then we can do something.
And then my last comment is just, if anybody has heard anything about, Calmar. Do we know anything about them? Has Lori heard anything, or?
Not since we last
I
talked.
mean, just out of curiosity, that's all.
I have not been
I thought
focused.
they were pretty close.
Well,
I don't know if they have their
state.
if they have their state yet or not, the
I
state
don't
approval.
know.
One thing I want to just say, I don't understand how Windsor Locks expects to take the old Fuller Russell building over there, where they want to make all those apartments.
Montgomery building.
It's the same
No,
situation.
it's Fuller Russell too, he's
Okay,
right.
It's Fuller Russell.
All I noticed.
Okay, because we used to bring tobacco there.
Yeah, down to the tobacco warehouse.
It's the same situation as this building right over here. How are they gonna make those into apartments? Same
These were made
situation.
into
eh?
apartments, Steve. The buildings they made into apartments, but the contamination is the ground. I mean, they can do stuff with the apartments, but the ground is what the contamination.
You know how oil soaked and everything those floors are in those buildings?
They gotta be. Hey,
Unbelievable.
it's not up to us. All I wanna see them do is straighten out that mess over there for the Route 140.
Okay.
So what's next?
If there's no more public participation,
Move to adjourn.
We're done.
then
No executive
we
session?
could have an executive session if you'd like to hear about employment, but
Quick.
Withdraw my motion under duress.
Okay, I'll make a motion to go into executive session pursuant to Connecticut General Statutes 1-200-6A, employment, after Bob shuts off the recorder.
I don't understand how they can put those